Good evening, Reds. This is Jarvis Cocker, your host for the night on Jarvis's Corner on MUFC Realist TV. So, guys, tonight we have a exciting show. We will try to speak about Ineos, Ten Hag, all the new manager rumors. Who will come in? Will Ten Hag get the sack? We don't know, but we will dissect it and speak about everything we know of. And tonight I have a special guest. That's Uncle Jimmy. He will join us a little bit later. And as usual, we have my co host, Mr. Stu Woolley, and Tom Journalist 1. So see you in a bit after the intro.
There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission. If we wish to make it louder, we will bring up the volume. If we wish to make it softer, we will tune it to a whisper. We will control the horizontal. We will control the vertical. We can roll the image, make it flutter. We can change the focus to a soft blur, or sharply to crystal clarity. For the next hour, sit quietly and we will control all that you see and hear. We repeat, there is nothing wrong with your television set. You are about to participate in a great adventure. You are about to experience the awe and mystery which reaches from the inner mind to
Good evening, everybody. This is your host, Jarvis Cocker. To with me, I have Stu Woolley and Tom Journalist 1, and we will try to speak about the Ineos saga of Ten Hag. It will be exciting. So, guys, have you caught up on the latest news? What's going on the saga of Ten Hag manager Ineos? It seems to be the biggest story of the silly season so far. So, Stu, read up about the new rumors?
No, I'm bored of it, if I'm being honest with you. Absolutely fed up with it. It's until something's announced, it's a bit of a non-story for me, and it's a non-story because the man's under contract still. So ultimately, they don't have to come out and say anything. You just tell him about Carrington tomorrow because he's still employed, as far as we all know, as manager of Manchester United. If he's been told behind the scenes and the negotiating payoffs, he's under an NDA, etc., that's a different story. But you can believe all you like, and the interesting thing about the whole scenario of what's going on is the Euros kicks off on Friday evening, okay, and it's not getting any airtime. It's all constantly, is Ten Hag going? Is Ten Hag staying? It's all Manchester United. The City suing the Premier League kicked off today. Now it's a closed casket, so to speak. No journos are allowed in there, etc. And it's hardly garnered any airtime. A little bit on TalkSport this morning, but it's hardly garnered any airtime about how embarrassing that club is, and could it stoop any lower than what it's doing at the moment? Because it's clearly understands it's in horrendous trouble with these charges, so they're trying a different angle to insert the Premier League. So all this is happening, all going along around us. We've got the Olympic Games coming up shortly. The European Athletic Championships are on at the moment. The T20 Cricket World Cup is going on. The French Open's just happened. Le Mans, 24 hours. The TT, all this is going on. In the MotoGP, World Supers, blah 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 blah. All this is happening. Okay, and everybody's focused on a bit of a non-event right now because nobody from Manchester United has come out and said we're looking to replace Ten Hag. You hear all this journalism, all this nonsense that's going around that we're speaking to him, we're speaking to XYZ. Any football club worth its salt does their due diligence every summer with anybody. If you are headhunting somebody for whatever reason, Ten Hag might have turned around to Ineos and said, well, look, I'll see out my contract and I'm going. So, we need to know what we're doing. So the club could be actually planning for the future. Nobody really knows what's happening. And somebody was saying, you know, but they should come out and tell us. But they don't have to when you're under contract. When there's a manager under contract, there is no need or no reason to say that Ten Hag's leading Manchester United into the 24-25 season. So, you know, there just isn't that need. I get why everybody is like worried about it. I can understand, but this is all media driven drivel right now. It really is. I mean, Pochettino was pouncing about on Soccer Aid last night, wasn't he? With Frank Lampard, you know, he was managing the rest of the world. You know, as good as it is. I mean, I was more interested in the state of the pitch. That Chelsea, I know Chelsea are going to rip the pitch up now, but you know, it was abysmal, the state of the pitch. And so we should be focusing as football fans at a really good international tournament, in my opinion, rather than babbling on about whether Gareth Southgate is going to come in. And the biggest issue for me is that signings already been made by Chelsea. They went in and snapped the crossing. They may be speaking to Sesko, the same as Arsenal. They're trying to get stuff done before the championships kick off in 4 days' time, which I think Scotland play, don't they, Tom? Don't they play Germany in the opening game Friday night?
Yes.
Yeah, they do. So all this is happening. So if we, as everybody assumes, we're going to go deep into the tournament, then Southgate isn't going to be anywhere near the club until the 14th, 15th of July, maybe. Okay. And our first fucking friendly is July the 12th. You know, make it make sense. Somebody make it make sense to me, because I don't get it. You know, so Southgate's got to get all his team in. We've got to let Ten Hag go, and whoever, you know, Van der Gaag or whoever. Okay, there you go. We made all these backroom signings, and as Tom correctly pointed out backstage, and this is the real key element to this. Although it doesn't really matter that Barada doesn't take his position until, I think he's July the 12th, isn't he, or something along those.
End of July,
End of July. So it doesn't necessarily matter whether, because we know that Barada will be in contact with Wilcox, etc., etc., etc. We're not stupid. We all know this. City know this. The FA know this. The Premier League know this. But a man who operates the way that he operates would never surely oversee an abysmal way of relieving one manager and then leaving yourself managerless until the manager that you specifically want is available after the European Championships. So for me, I don't think it's necessarily needed a statement, because the guy's employed with us till the end of 2025 season. He's employed with us. So when you're employed with somebody, you just have your holiday and you come back to work and away you go. So I don't know whether there's all, this is all sensationalism. It's lazy journalism. Tom would agree, and I'm sure you would. There's no smoke without fire. I get it, but could it be due diligence for 12 months time? Nobody knows. We've got bigger issues in terms of player recruitment, because Bayern Munich put a derisory bid in, didn't they, for Paulinho for about 30 million quid. I read, which, you know, if that's the case, the Manchester United should be all over that like a rash. You know, if we want Branthwaite, you've got to the end of June. There's PSR coming up as well, don't forget. Between now and the end of June, you've got to do your business, whatever you can get. If we want Branthwaite, you can get him, because he's not going to the Euros unless he gets called up from the standby list. Tom Heaton's gone today, hasn't he, as a goalkeeping coach? Kind of fantastic for Tom Heaton, you know. So and I will shut up now, but you could probably tell I'm a bit aghast and pissed with all this crap that's going on in the Twitter sphere at the moment in the universe, because nobody fucking knows. And Tom will tell you this. Jarvis, all they're doing, they're chucking their chips and they're gambling on getting it right. That's all they're doing, these journalists. Now, either somebody will get it right or somebody will get it wrong, but everybody's flip-flopping on this. All the big channels are flip-flopping. All the big journalists are flip-flopping. Everyone's flip-flopping on it. But silence is either deafening or it's an irrelevance. It's either one or the other. And it could well be that silence in this time is an absolute irrelevance. And I would absolutely piss myself laughing if Ten Hag rocked up tomorrow at Carrington. What's all the fuss about? You know, what sort of fuss about? I'm just here doing my job and all this. So Sky reporting that he still doesn't know. Everyone's reporting it'll be this week. Everybody reported it'd be last week. Everybody reported they're doing a end of season review, blah, 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 blah. Honestly, Dave Brailsford is a smart cookie. Whether we like him or not, whether we agree with him or not, he's a smart cookie. He knows how to run an organisation the size of Manchester United. He ran it with Team Sky, ran it with British Cycling. He knows what he's doing. You don't become a billionaire overnight by being dumb. You surround yourself with the right people, and that's what he's done. So I don't know. It could go, well, it will go one way or the other. Not that it could, it will. I just find it quite strange that everybody's going, what we hear today, what we hear today, what we hear today. Because, you know, if you're Ten Hag, all the chips now are firmly in your chair. And again, Tom will tell you this as a businessman. You know, if Tom is treating Ten Hag this way, he will know that Ten Hag's going to be going, right then, Thomas, what are you going to give me? Because I would. If you want me gone, let's have this. If you want me staying, let's have this. You know what I'm saying? There's some serious conversations to be had.
Yeah.
There really is.
Yeah.
And all this is getting, forgotten about in smoke screens. And while I've been baffling around, and I'm sorry to cut you off, and we'll have to bring you in, Tom, there's been two.
Yeah, right, go on.
Yes, we have to address the memberships.
Yeah, the memberships as well.
And we have 5 gifted memberships from Jonathan Liljenberg from Sweden. Thank you, my good friend. And I will read out the members. We have legends in the chat who has got the memberships. It's Stephanie Griffith.
Yes.
Big up, Stephanie.
Big up,
Scotty at the wheel. Reber Bakir, Hale Fox, and Shabazz Kera have gotten the 5 memberships. So
thank you very much, Jonathan. Welcome.
Remember to thank Jonathan Liljenberg. And we have a super chat also here. I will just bring it up. And that's also from Jonathan. He said, could we see Sir Jim 50% and anyone take the rest in the future? I can see it. And the Glazers sell the whole club, ? What's your thought? Love the channel. So I'll give this to Tom.
Well, if we're basing it off of recent developments, so Jim's going to come into a windfall of cash potentially soon because they're looking at selling Nice, so they can comply with UEFA's guidelines. They're giving him a 12-month leniency contract. Basically, that means sort your shit out, lads. What are you doing? So there's not going to be a long-term solution to the problem. It's a short-term agreement that they've got with UEFA to basically say, well, where's your priorities, Manchester United or Nice? And you listen, no disrespect to Nice, from what I've heard when I've spoken to French football fans and stuff, the Nice supporters, they didn't take very kindly to Jim Ratcliffe when he first came in. He overpromised a lot on spending, exposure of the football club and putting them on sort of a pedestal similar to what PSG have in terms of a global football club and being one of those big European powerhouses. He's failed to deliver. He's failed on many times in terms of investment into the football club. He underpaid them 2 years ago. They had a summer where they bought 3 players that they actually brought in the transfer window, or 3 free transfers. They brought in Kasper Schmeichel, Ross Barkley, and I can't remember who the other guy was. It was another player from the Premier League anyway. But there's been a massive underpar from them. I think if somebody gave him a good offer for Nice, I think, to be fair to him, I think Nice is quite a decent club. I think it is a club that you can develop. I think if you had to put where Nice are in the French league in comparison to the Premier League, I think they are a little bit like an Everton. I think they are they've got a new stadium, so they've got top facilities. I think training ground, from what I hear anyway, could maybe do with a bit of glitz and glamour, but somebody new coming in might develop that and do that. I think, again, Nice is a brilliant city to have a football club. So it's a very historical sort of French city. And as much as it probably pains me to state, the viewing figures in the French Football League aren't great. But if you buy into the league while the viewing figures aren't great, you might end up getting a better deal for yourself now until they actually get a main broadcaster to take the TV rights on. And then you'll have a windfall of cash coming afterwards. So it is a decent investment for somebody to make, but it just depends who out there is willing to buy a club like Nice. And I think it's an attractive football club. I'm not going to lie in saying that, you know, but I don't think they can do what Ratcliffe did and come in and say that they'll promise him the world. But if he did sell Nice, let's say, so he bought the club 6 years ago from a Chinese investor for 100 million euros. After 6 years, they've developed, to be fair, they have developed since he bought them. They're in and around about the Champions League spots. I think he could get a good couple of 100 million investment back from it. I think he will recoup a lot. I think he will recoup a profit from it. But it's that sort of money then that you look at where you think, well, if you get a windfall of cash into Jim, what's stopping you from then going and buying more of the Glazer family shares? There isn't anything. We know he's got money. I've said this before many a time. When he first bought the 27%, which then increased to 29%, when he bought the percentage that he did, he had £4 billion sat in an account waiting to buy into Man United. When 18 months prior to the Man United saga, he had $5 billion US dollars in an account waiting to buy Chelsea for $2.5 billion, and then he had another 1.75 billion to invest in the football club. So the guy's got money. He can access money. He's got money to buy in more shares at Manchester United if he wants to. And if you have that sort of windfall, I think a lot of United fans will look at that and think, well, you've got money, Jim. You've got a massive influx of cash coming in. £500 million, I think, can buy you maybe another 10, maybe another, I don't know, 15, 20% of the football club. It depends how the Glazers overall value it since he's come in. But even if he didn't buy the Glazer family shares, buy them off stock exchange. Buy them off stock exchange and just work the rates up. That's all he's got to do.
Yeah, but it's not the same voting right for the stock exchange.
I know it's not the same voting rights, Jarvis, but the Glazers, because they've only just sold a bit now, they're not going to instantly sell within 12 months. I don't think that's the case. I think if you look at Jim buying the whole club, it's a 3 to 4 year maybe plan. Yeah. That's the problem. But in the background of all that, he's still promised what he's promised United fans. He's promising he's going to build a new stadium from somewhere. He's going to build all these fan parks and modernise that side of Manchester. Fair enough, he wants to use taxpayers' money to modernise in and around it. But the stadium, he said that he's going to build out of his own pocket or out of Ineos's finances, which is fine. Listen, that's fine. But I've heard this, like I said, from what I've just said with Nice supporters. He promised Nice supporters the world. He under-delivered. And he's underperformed at that football club. They have. And I think when he sells the football club, he probably will look back in hindsight, do an interview or whatever and say, we weren't successful, but maybe we needed a bit of an experience in football to then take us to the next level to say, well, now we know how difficult it is.
Yeah, don't you think it was just like a trial and error thing for them? To be fair, and they didn't just come up with, okay, let's just buy Man United, and 1 week later they were just in the process. They must have been planning this. It's of course they're talking about billions.
I mean, Jarvis, when we look about it, right? Forget the Qatar thing, because Qatar haven't been flirting around with Man United for 10 years, let's say. The one person that we always knew had an interest in buying Man United, they didn't actually quote him by his name, Sir Jim Ratcliffe. They said Britain's richest man is a Manchester United fan, and he would always be interested in buying his boyhood club at some point. That's the one thing that they always said. But the one thing he said was Manchester United's never been for sale. So I can't buy something that's not up for grabs. And as much as he wants to say it anyway, I don't believe the nostalgia of that he couldn't have bought the whole football club. I think he could have done. I really do. But I don't think he wanted to pay the sort of money that the family wanted, because it was ludicrous money. I mean, when Qatar have a war chest of funds and they're not prepared to budge, I don't think one individual is going to part with upwards of £8 billion for a football club. It's not going to happen. But I agree with the point about Sir Jim potentially buying maybe more shares of the family. But, you know, there's so much work that needs to be done that needs so much investment. Like I've just said, I said about a stadium. You're talking 2 billion there. That's 2 billion. That's ballpark. Either way, if you want to build a new one or develop, that's 2 billion ballpark. Same thing. We need a new training ground. Carrington is not fit for purpose. It needs modernising and supposedly going to make improvements over the summer. Fair enough. That's going to cost some money. Building all these fan park zones and everything, which he's going to have his own pocket into, as well as taxpayers' money. And again, people are going to not sit around and look on the football pitch and think, well, we're not playing well, we're not performing well. You're going to have to buy players. You're going to have to buy players. You're going to have to support the investment into the team. That's going to cost money as well. And that's why when these rumours came out, guys, when they said about $300 million injection of cash into the club, it's going to do nothing. It doesn't scratch the surface. And they said that it was going to be used for what? Stadium development and infrastructure capacity. It doesn't touch the sides. It doesn't. It's not even a quarter of what you need. The money that's up for it here. But no, I like I said, I think with United fans, if it comes in 2 or 3 years, guys, and he sells Nice and everything in hindsight and that for a decent price and stuff, and Ineos are always going to keep consistently making money, and he's going to get richer and richer. Yeah. The longer that he lives, people are going to put 2 and 2 together and think, come on, Jim. Someone's going to give him a nudge to say, come on, you need to buy more of this. We need to see more of a commitment to Man United, because who's to say, guys, he might buy into this like he's done now, 3-4 years' time, and think, nah, I don't like this anymore. I'm not making a success. I'm losing money. He might sell out. We don't know. But like I say, hindsight's it's a good thing, but I also think it's a dangerous thing. But no, I think somebody's going to have to put some pressure on him in a couple of years to buy some more. Because I don't think fans are just going to sit here and allow this little agreement. Some people have been bought off by what we're seeing right now. I certainly haven't. Listen, you can say that you're going to build a new stadium. I'll believe it when the blue ribbon's cut by Fergie or whoever. But when I actually see it with my own eyes, then I'll actually think, okay, the guy's serious. But you can talk a good game. The one thing that Jim's done is talked a good game for a lot of months. But I'm not seeing, for a while now, probably since the Berardi saga and everything, and maybe Wilcox coming in, I've not seen that much action, to be completely honest with you. And if this manager saga thing, guys, just to touch on it just briefly, if this is anything to go by, I swear to God, I hope this isn't how we're going to negotiate for players. I really hope it's not, because decision-making for this is poor. It's really poor. It's something that, to be honest with you, the Glazers didn't even take this long to decide whether they wanted to keep people or not. It's poor, it's degrading, and players and agents won't sit around and wait for Manchester United to make a decision on them. They'll go somewhere else. Yeah. So they need to brush up their act.
Yes. I just want to say, when it comes to Tom and his knowledge about Nice, he just went to France and has some background research. He was in the area of Cannes, Nice, Monaco, Antibes, all the French Riviera, and Tom knows every restaurant and bar around that area.
I know a good wine list when I see one.
He knows a good wine list. Fantastic. Where's my manner, by the way? I forgot to introduce the VAR room. There's so many people in the chat. I just want to say hello to everybody who's tuned in. We have Phil McGee, Rushmano, we have Lilis, Lucky Singh, as always, Fergie Time 99, Welsh Girl 68, Jack Hoff, Mr. Hoff, Milos Mitic, Dobre večer, Milos Mitic from Serbia. Who else do we have here? There's so many of you. Jonathan Lillenberg, of course, with the super chats and gifting memberships. And Rizwan, Khalid. There's so many of you. I can't read you all. Scotty at the wheel. So big up. People, remember to hit the like. There's 151 people watching on all channels, 92 on YouTube, and let's try to get to 200 likes, because then I will sing "Never Gonna Give You Up" by with Rick Ashley at the end of the show. So we need 200 likes. People, get those likes going.
Get on the burner accounts, Stu. Get on the burner accounts, mate.
I'm gonna. I don't know if my ears can cope with that. Actually,
come on. I have a great voice. Dude. I have a great voice.
Hold on. Sorry. What? The wife's calling me. Oh, I've got to go. Oh, what a shame. What a shame. God. Dear me. My phone's, even my watch has gone to sleep. It's put it in sleep mode.
Wow.
There's not a Jarvis singing. Wow. Come on. 200 likes.
Yes, 200 likes. And as usual, this is Jarvis's Corner. At the end of the show, we will do a Q&A session. So people get your questions in, mark them with a Q at the beginning and a question mark at the end, so I know what to pick to the Q&A session. And we will bring up all of your questions at the end of the show. I just want to get going with this, because this is the topic of tonight, and we were covering it a little bit. It's about all the news now, the late news, all the different media outlets coming out with I would say now, I read today this one. I'm just going to put it on the screen here, that United have made contacts with Robert De Zerbi, Maurizio Pochettino, Thomas Frank. This is 2 hours ago. And then you have this again. Sir Alex Ferguson is pressing for Maurizio Pochettino to be the new Man United manager, Graham Bailey. And this one, Manchester United have cooled their interest in Maurizio Pochettino. So the merry-go-around all the time, again and again. There's different views from different journalists, and everything is contradicting. So what to believe in all of this mess? I have certain outlets that I trust. Of course, Rushmano is the biggest one. Everybody follow Rushmano, but also the real Italian guy, not Rushmano, but what's his name again? Ornstein and then Fabrizio Romano, and there's so many outlets there. But I would say, guys, who do you think will come in as a new manager, or will there be a new manager at all? Maybe Stu can go first.
I think he stays. I mean, my reasoning behind it is kind of what I went through earlier. I just think the longer if we are dragging this out, by the way, if the club is dragging this out, I mean, it's poor form anyway, but the longer you drag it out, the more on the back foot we'll be as a club once again. We saw how bad it was at the Qatar World Cup. It's taken really 2 years for the Premier League to kind of get back to where it needs to be, in terms of the quality of the football. It was woeful after the Qatar World Cup. We're now heading directly into the European Championships, and it's another issue that managers have got. And you don't want to change managers in an international tournament year, because it just really does put you on the back foot all the time. You can't implement what you want to implement, because you've got to concentrate on the tournament itself. As a player, you can't get distracted by transfers. As a player, you want it done before you go. You don't want it hanging over you. You don't want to be signing contracts mid-tournament, because managers won't allow it. So this is where the agents should have been putting their work in from January onwards. Everybody knows it's a tournament year, so everybody's got to be. And you're not just talking the Euros. You got the Copa America as well.
And the Olympics.
And the Olympics. So you've got such a lot happening in a very short space of time. We don't want Garnacho to go to the Olympics, for example. He's playing on international duty at the moment, isn't he? We don't want him going to the Olympics. There's certain elements and players you've got to start looking at. Our pre-season schedule, the club sent it to me the other day. It's a nightmare. It's so congested. Between we play, and don't forget, we're playing a week earlier. Our season starts a week earlier because of the Community Shield, so we have to be ready. So whoever comes in has got to be ready. So if it is Southgate, he's got zero time to implement anything. And so for me, I just, to me, it's lazy journalism. Although I do like Graham Bailey. You know, Graham Bailey is very well connected, certainly up in the northeast, very well connected. He's a good commentator, is Graham Bailey. But I just feel that if a club the size of Manchester United, the size of Liverpool, look at what Liverpool did. They knew Klopp was going, so they didn't hang about. They got on with it. They looked at the body of managers out there, and they went, right, this is who we want. We're just going to go we're going to go and grab him. And they did. They grabbed him. De Zerbi gives this massive speech about, oh, I've decided to part ways. He hasn't come up on anybody's radar for a club. So he must have known, De Zerbi, that he was walking into a job somewhere. You would think, you know, in my opinion. Tuchel, I don't really know what the deal is with Tuchel. And as for people claiming that Fergie wants a specific manager, for crying out loud, I can't believe you've got the balls to write that bollocks. Why would you write that? You know, that's just, it embarrasses me as a journalist. It embarrasses me reading some of this stuff, you know, and a lot of it, as I said to you, is it's like dealing cards. It's guesswork. Eventually something you say will drop right, but you're just guessing. You know, none of these guys have really got a real handle on what's going on. So they're just guessing. So I'll just chuck this card here, or just chuck this card there, or chuck this card here, and I'll chuck this card there. So I don't believe, for me. And by the way, if you are a Pochettino, and you are a Thomas Frank, and you are a De Zerbi, and you are a whoever, then surely, if you're a manager worth its salt, you're going to be going to the board at Manchester United saying, don't fuck me about. Don't fuck me about. I want to be in June 1st. Yeah. I'll forgo me holiday. I will walk through the doors of Carrington on June 1st. Let me have the whole month of June player free to get myself sorted with the club, get myself familiarised with the staff, get myself, let me know who I want to bring in on my coaching team, who I can keep, who I can't keep, and then I will give you what players I want, or what players have you identified. You know what? You know, so you, even as a manager that's out of work, if you're Pochettino, you can't be dicking about. You just can't. You know, the players, some of the players, the fringe players are back on July 1st, July 2nd, first week in July. Maybe it might be even the last 2 weeks in June, if they've got anything about them, like a Rashford. He should be walking through Carrington last 2 weeks in June. Okay, same as Ericsson. Some of these players haven't been playing. They should be going in early. They should be trying to get themselves fit. I know they're all on personal programs, etc., etc., etc. I know it's June 10th. There you go. It's June 10th. We know all this. So these are things that I'm struggling as even as an amateur footballer to get my brain around. I just doesn't calculate with me. It doesn't compute with me. None of it stacks up at all. So this is why I can't see anything other than Ten Hag staying. I just can't. If you do, then wow, you know. I just go, well, I give up with football anyway. But I mean, the level of moronicness that would be attached to bringing in the likes of Gareth Southgate or a manager in at the end of June, I just can't comprehend. To me, it just doesn't make sense. So I reiterate, if you are a manager that they're talking to, you should be, well, you're too late for a start, or get me in now. Get me in now. I need to be in now.
But Stu, I have been thinking about this, and we all know the financial year starts at June or July the 1st.
July the 1st.
Could it be that they want to remove the 10 million they have to pay Ten Hag if they sack him until the next financial year because of, I don't know, FFP, something.
But if you do, you're 10 million in the hole straight away.
Yeah,
you're 10 million in the hole straight away.
Could it be a possibility?
Yeah.
Do you see
it could well be, but even if that's the case, and they say you sign your contract from July 2nd, yeah, fine. I'm still coming in. I still need to be working. I still need to know, familiarize myself with everything. I still need to know what's happening with the medical team. I need to know what's happening with the other players you want to get rid of. What you're doing with Sancho. What are you doing with Rashford? I need to know all of this.
Yeah.
These managers need to know everything. You know, I need to know player history. I need to know injury history. I need to know what types of injuries they've had. Have they had muscle injuries, leg breaks?
Yeah, I know that's true. But today
all of this.
we all read this from came out that Dan Ashworth wants a yes man, a yes manager, rather someone that challenged the recruitment department, making up of the squad and all of that you're talking about, the medical staff. Because as I understand, Ineos wants to have control over everything, and the manager will just be the coach and the guy who will pick the team.
Okay.
No,
well, the problem you're going to have there is two things. If that's what Ashworth wants, well, that's pretty poor as far as I'm concerned. You have to have pushback in life. You've got to. You know, it's magnetic. People are like magnets. They're polar opposites. You have to have pushback in life. If you're going to sit in that office at Manchester United, Dan Ashworth's going to come in, right, we're going to play a 4-4-2. We're selling Anana, we're going to bring in De Gea again, we're going to do this, and this, and you're a manager and you don't push back, we don't want you in that chair. You shouldn't be anywhere near the chair of Manchester United, Newcastle, Liverpool, anywhere. If you are a yes man as a manager, forget it. Just go and coach non-league, because that's not what you need. You can't have a yes man as a manager.
Yeah, but again, it's about what you do, how do you define a yes man? But for me, it could be a guy who would like to collaborate with the structure.
Yeah, but that's not what you call a yes man, though, Jarvis. A yes man is just right. I'm going to tell you what to do, and you're just going to get on with it. And that's what a yes man is. So if you are a Gareth Southgate, you're Graham Potter, you're a Kieran McKenna, then you're young enough, not wise enough to kind of accept what you're being told.
Yeah,
and that's why a Mourinho would butt heads with you, and you know, or a Conte would butt heads. You know, Bombay is massively into Conte. If that's the case, then it's just the wrong type of profile of manager. Ten Hag, I don't believe will be a yes man. I still think he will have his way of wanting to do things. But actually, to be fair, Jarvis, it's up to Ashworth and Ineos and Wilcox to put the structure around Ten Hag to give him the best. We all saw the best chance of success. We all saw what happened in the FA Cup final when he got kind of the players that he needed in and around everything, and away he went. You know, we were well worth our win that day, whatever Guardiola says. So I'll go back to it, and I stand by this. If you are a top quality manager stroke coach and you're not in situ right now, and you've been approached about being in situ and you're not in situ, then you're on a hide to nothing. You really are. Whereas Ten Hag can roll in on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of this week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, nothing changes, nothing happens. It's just a different element of doing things. So for me, Ten Hag stays, and those are my reasons why.
Yeah, that sounds fair, and I agree. You know, I'm just trying to create some debate and be the devil's advocate when we are in here and make this interesting. I just want to say hi to one guy who haven't seen in a while. Uncle Jimmy, or could we say Kobe Manu's dad? How you doing, my friend?
Biological father, yes. Can you all hear me all right? Yeah.
Yes, you're great.
Cool. Yeah, man. So, no, I'm good. Just just getting on. You know, disappointing end to the season for me. It's you know what? I was saying, right. It's affected my life in so many different ways, because I'm a big FIFA player, and I love playing FIFA, and the end of the season has just deflated me so much that I can't even get on a game of FIFA and play FIFA anymore, because it's just I'm just falling out of love with football at the moment, you know.
Yeah.
So disappointing end to the season, but yeah, I think, you know, I just agreeing with everything about Ten Hag. I think just, you know, I think for me, I'd like to see him stay for another season. I want to see what he does with good recruitment structure behind him. I think one thing people underestimate is, you know, when we look at other top clubs, is the fact that their managers don't really have to worry about recruitment too much because the recruitment's so good. The manager can just sort of get on with the football, and that's a big, that's a really big factor in how successful a manager can be at a club. And I think a lot of people are underestimating the power of having a good structure behind you. And Ten Hag has been a real disadvantage. I think his achievements last season were understated, I think, in a way, even by the media. Really, if you look at it, I think they downplayed Ten Hag's achievements in his first season quite a lot, and I think that actually has had a knock-on factor to the way that Manchester United fans are reacting to him this season, because the people are almost have this clouded view of Ten Hag as if he didn't achieve anything in his first season, and working with really a less than average squad. When you look at the squad, that squad overachieved in that season, because if you look at those players, how many players in that team would get in the City team? How many players would get in the Arsenal team? How many players would get in a... Do you know what? I'd go as far as saying how many players would get in the Spurs team the way that Spurs have played this season. So, when you look at the squad was so poor. So for Ten Hag to achieve what he achieved, against, so many odds, when you look at what was happening in the background, now we know, the club for sale, not knowing what's going to happen at the club, really, no future. There was no, there was no plan in sight for anyone, including the manager. So I think he overachieved with that squad. So when people are saying Ten Hag out, for me, I think it's a very, it's an easy cop-out. I think it's a lazy assessment of the Manchester United team as it stands at the moment, because, I feel like there's so much more that this team can do. And I know there's so many players that need to leave, and this squad needs to be rebuilt. But from what Ten Hag did in the first season, for me, I think I can give him the benefit of the doubt and say, look, give him a good structure behind him, and let him really cook with what... the last few games that we watched where they performed quite well, if you look at the team that would have played, it would have been the team that was as close to, what we thought was going to be the starting 11, as possible, really. So, I think you've seen signs even in this poor season that, this guy has some really good ideas when it comes to football, and he's just had some very poor tools to work with, and he's done the best that he could do. He's made some very poor decisions. There's no question about that. I think he's miscalculated. I think he's been too stubborn at times. I think to the detriment of the team. And I think what that's done actually is it's made the players mistrust him a little bit in certain games. I think some decisions that he was making, you can see the body language in the players, that they were undermining his decisions at certain times, and rightly so, because these players they're professional footballers. They've got a say in how football should be played. So yes, he's made many mistakes, but I've seen enough to give him a season with good play. I'm not even looking for superstar players, or I'm not looking for some shiny, players. I just want good, efficient players that can come in, play to his style, work together, listen to the senior players in the team, because, people say there's no senior players. There is some senior players at the team, but, and with a good structure, with a good team around them, I think you'll find that there's something that can happen there, and people need to be a little bit patient. We've been patient before as a team, we supported Sir Alex Ferguson when he first came to the club, and he could have gone. So we've supported managers at poor times. Football is not just plain sailing. Just because City are doing it, just because, people are forgetting Arsenal were calling for Arteta's head just 2 seasons ago.
Yeah.
So,
people need to understand that these things happen. Be patient sometimes. Let's try a bit of patience for once. And it's been a while as a fan base since we were patient. We've called for every manager's head, and unfortunately, every manager's head has been chopped. So let's try for once. Let's try this one. Let's give him another season. Let's see what he does. At the end of next season, it will be a fair assessment if he's been given what we can all universally agree are the right tools for a manager to work with at a top club like Manchester United, who's trying to challenge for titles and play in the Champions League. If we see the recruitment is reflecting those ambitions that we believe to be for Manchester United as a fan base, then he still performs poorly in that season. we can fairly call for his head at the end of that season because, brother, look, we've given you everything that you need as a manager. We've been behind you. We've had our doubts, but we've formed together. We've supported you, and you've still failed us. Bye-bye, give us the keys, you know, we'll change the locks, you know, and we can move on. So we need to exercise some patience as a fan base. And I know people will hate me saying that, but I think we should give him another season. And that's my honest assessment of it.
Yeah.
You see, Jimmy, you're absolutely right, but you're absolutely right about players and the way that players kind of interprets what they're supposed to do. I mean, like I do it myself, you know, the gaffer will say something to me and I'll interpret it, you know, differently, but I'll always try and action what he's trying to explain to me. But ultimately what happens, you play the game, we all play the game. Ultimately what happens, the game evolves around you within split seconds constantly.
Yeah.
Every time you breathe, something else happens. It doesn't go quite according to plan. And where I got frustrated, not necessarily with Ten Hag, with the players, was they couldn't identify it quick enough. It took them too long to identify a shift pattern, a change pattern, and the way the opposition was playing and the way that we needed to reset up. I mean, sometimes in football, again, you'll all know this, even the VAR room will know this. You're doing quite well in a game, and then somebody trips over the ball, trips over his lace, falls over a little divot in the pitch or whatever, and it totally changes the balance of the game just by something as small as that. And we don't go into, and you have to drop into a 4-4-2 actually to regain your composure for 5 minutes, maybe even 8 to 10 minutes. But we never did that. We never did it. And the amount of times you would see teams try and regain composure by dropping into a formation to suit, to get the ball, to play it short, sharp, for 5 minutes of keep ball, hide and seek with the football, that then enables you to push along. And this is my frustration with the players. So I agree with you. Our squad isn't intelligent enough to be able to do that during games. And there are what we would class as lesser squads that have had that intelligence in times. And I'll cite Luton Town as one, Nottingham Forest as another. They had that intelligence to just for 5 minutes, just block it.
Very smart players, very smart.
Build a brick wall, do something, and then, you know, fight your way back into the game. And when you got a player like McTominay, who, to be fair to the lads, you know, 10 goals, whatever, great return, but went missing too much in matches, doesn't understand how to overcome adversity in a game and play yourself back into a game with your ability that you've got.
He has no ideas. He's got no ideas as a player.
Every time I fuck up, Jimmy, I get the ball and I drop it off 2 yards and I try and breathe. If I've made a mistake, I won't play anything with any kind of flamboyance. I'll just knock it 2-3 yards, and I'll do that for 2, 3, 4 minutes until I regain my composure, and then I'll try and play my natural game. And that's what I just can't get my head around it. You know, you're talking with elite professionals, and you're talking about a moron here. That's the difference between my capabilities as a footballer and, you know, Manchester United's capabilities as a footballer. But I understand how to operate during a game. That's what I can't get my head around. And you know as well as I do, Jimmy, and Jarvis and Tom and the VAR room, anyone who plays football, it's your responsibility to understand that element of the game. The gaffer can't just pour it down you like a drink. Can't shove up your arse with an injection. It's up to you to really understand that element of the game. So
but that's the thing, Stu. A lot of the young players coming up now is educated players coming from academies, been training and drilled into this since, I would say, age of 10 at least, and maybe even younger, doing stuff like this. So it shouldn't be the manager of a top club like Man United to instruct players on the basics. They should know the basics themselves.
100%. You know, when you get picked up by an academy, I'm not talking about a development squad here because there's a big difference, but I'm talking about an academy. When you're an academy player, okay, you go into Manchester United 2-3 times a week. That's game time and training, maybe 4 times, depending on where you are within the rotation. And then you've kind of got to understand at a very early age what the responsibility is of a footballer and your responsibility of your position. So there's two things to understand: your positional responsibility and your responsibility as a footballer. Those are two different things. And again, you all know this because we've all played football. And again, the VAR room, you all know this. It's how quickly you absorb it. It's what you can absorb and the depth of what you can absorb as a human being that enables you. And then you've got that natural ability. And what academies try and do is put the two together. They meld them together. What you can absorb information-wise and what you can do ability-wise. And they will individually look at you and say, right, we need to go a bit slow with this player. Brilliant with his feet, but doesn't quite know what to do with it. And great example, Garnacho. Brilliant with his feet, doesn't quite know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And that's how academy football starts, and that's how you elevate yourself, to the elite level. Crikey. Sorry, I just realised how fucking boring I am.
What are you talking about?
I just realised I was listening to myself, and I just like, Jesus, guys, the VAR must be thinking, oh my God, shoot myself.
Now you're spitting facts. That's why we're just quiet listening. We just it's like a lecture for us. We're just taking the information in, man. That's all it is. That's all it is. That's a good sign. It's a good sign.
Principal Woolley talking, everybody's quiet, sitting still and listening. That's how it is. Stephanie Griffith coming in, 55 likes. Remember, if you get into 200 likes, I will sing Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Astley at the end of the show. So keep those likes coming. I just want to bring up one thing here for we haven't heard from Tom in a while. And this is actually a tweet from Phil De Bruyne and the Muppeteers. And they say, I wish I was joking, but I've been asked a number of people I trust, and they are all telling me Ineos wants Southgate. And we know Phil De Bruyne and the Muppeteers have a lot of connections in the club. So I just want to ask Tom, what's your thought about this? Do you think it's possible that Southgate can come in as a manager at all? And would we accept it as a fans of the club?
Yeah, I'll answer the second question first. I don't think there's any Man United fan that would ever accept Gareth Southgate at Manchester United.
Absolutely not.
He's done nothing. He's done nothing in football. He got Middlesbrough relegated. Arguably, I don't think he had a distinguished playing career. You can argue for.
There's no reason why.
There's no reason why, as a coach. From what I know about him anyway, he doesn't coach the England squad. Steve Holland leads the training sessions. He did a similar role with what Mourinho did, and when he was at Chelsea, where Mourinho gave him a bit of control in terms of operational and actual working with players, but the tactical side of the game came from Mourinho. They're not. You can see with England, they're not a tactical side. They're really not. They're set up for what they are.
You could see that in the Iceland game. That was
you see that in the Iceland game, Jimmy. Yeah, we've seen this in the Euros even. The guy, for me, he's had a golden generation. We keep banging on about England. That there's a golden generation of young players. It's now or never if they're ever going to win anything. Yeah, there's a golden generation with young players, and I just think that he's massively underperformed. The Euros, it was there for the taking. They dragged it to penalties, and they bottled it with a game plan in the game. You could have easily gone for it to the end of that game. They were there for the taking defensively. You've got two grandpas at the back and Keeling and I think it was Bonucci who was playing the day. The game was there to be taken for, and he didn't take it. And if you're going to be Man United manager, you need to make bold decisions. And if he's in an FA Cup final, put it this way, if he was at the FA Cup final when we played Pep with City, and he played like that against Iceland at Wembley, night and day. And at the end of the day, the thing with me, I'll give sort of my perspective there. The Thomas Tuchel thing, I can sort of understand why they approached him and why he might have been the ideal person that they wanted. The only reason why I can think that is when they was trying to buy Chelsea, the plan when they was going to buy Chelsea was they were going to keep Thomas Tuchel because they thought he was a brilliant coach. And they looked at what he'd done in that time when they were trying to buy Chelsea. They'd won the Champions League. They'd had, obviously, the ownership situation and everything. It was a decent club to buy at the time because they were top 4 maintaining football club. They wanted to keep him. I could understand why they would have approached him because they would have kept him at Chelsea. So he's a manager that they've looked at before. But the thing that strikes me that I think Thomas Tuchel's the one that they ended up wanting, but I think they just clashed on far too much stuff. And I don't think that they agreed upon what they both was happy with. I think Ineos would have wanted more of the structure and the regime above takes control of most things. You just coach. I don't think Thomas Tuchel's that sort of character. I think he wants an influence in decision making. Maybe not the final decision, but he wants to be consulted with things. And if the argument of what people are saying that they want a yes man, Thomas Tuchel's nowhere near for a yes man. He'll blow the gaff up and he says it how it is in press conferences. That's just how the guy is. At the end of the day, I think Thomas Tuchel's the one that they wanted. They tried to pip him. They tried to get him. They've blown up. It's blown up in the face. The thing with me is, I think if they were going to get rid of Erik ten Hag, they'd have told him while he was on his holiday, and effectively said, "Don't come back. While you're on your holiday, don't come back, Eric. You know, we'll box your stuff up, post it to the Netherlands, wherever you want. You know, put it on a cargo plane, whatever, and I've done with you." I think that's honestly what they would have done. Because why would you bring the guy back? Why would you allow the guy back? If your plan is to get rid of him, inevitably anyway. There's no thought process behind it. Yeah, you could have gone through the FA Cup. He's gone on holiday. See the back of the guy. You don't have to see the guy ever again. That's it. He could have gone off and said, "Well, I did what I could. I won 2 trophies." He can make a claim to say that he's been successful, and Ineos can say, "Well, rightly so, yeah." And you know, Ineos can make the claim of, "Well, he's not our guy, and we want a move forward, maybe in a different direction." Or again, Ten Hag's vision for what he's had in terms of control over the last 2 years doesn't go hand in hand with what Ineos are wanting to almost propose to other managers out there in the game. But no, I don't personally believe this thing with Southgate. The only reason why I don't believe it is Omar Barada, when he works at City, for example, and I know he wasn't the top guy at City, but he was a part of that 4-man trio. I don't think if Gareth Southgate's name came up, he would look at that and think, that's a guy that's an amazing manager. He's going to evolve the football club. You need a manager to walk into Man United tomorrow and evolve if you're going to replace Erik ten Hag. They have to be they have to be someone, either a character, tactically brilliant, play brilliant football. They have to have something about them. Gareth Southgate, he's got waistcoats. That's all. That's the only thing that he's got. He's got a slab. He's got a decent, lifestyle. Listen, Pochettino, when these rumours have come out and everything, the guy lost soccer aid. He lost soccer aid. So I don't think coming to Manchester United, as much as people want to say about he's done brilliantly with young players and everything, that's fine. Like you said, Stu, I don't buy that thing with Ferguson and that. They've used that claim for years, that Ferguson's always liked Pochettino and that. If they were going to get Poch, they should have got him when there was that little saga with Ollie. It was either give Ollie a contract or go for Pochettino. If they wanted Poch, they could have got Poch at the end of that year. He'd had a Barmy with Levy and he wanted out. Again, like I said, I don't buy this thing with Southgate, just based on... If they brought in Gareth Southgate, he's not a name that's going to excite the fan base. He's not a manager who brings a massive amount of charisma. He doesn't have an attractive style of play. I don't really think players, when they see him pull up to the building, are going to think, "Oh, Jesus Christ, everything's got to be immaculate." Let me put it this way. If you had Zinedine Zidane rolled up in a black smart suit, or you had Gareth Southgate rolled up in a waistcoat, I think I know what the players are going to do and how they're going to react. If Gareth Southgate rolls up, they'll be in tracksuits. If Zinedine Zidane rolls up, they'll be in the exact same attire as him. That's the way that I think that, in terms of how prestige goes with managers, that's how you can value them. Southgate is not going to... Honestly, I don't buy this nostalgia about the guy. Listen, I think he's had a golden generation, like I say, with England. He's done nothing with it. He's really done nothing with it. And this is his last Hail Mary. And if they were going to get Gareth Southgate, to be honest with you, they've gone the worst way about it. If you wanted this guy that badly, I'd have pulled him out of the Euros then. Pull him out of the Euros. Get him out of there. Because by the time that if England are as successful as people think that they're going to be at the Euros, we came up with a theory, guys. We might not get the guy until like the end of July anyway. We'll play a pre-season game, I think, on the 12th of July, don't we?
We do.
Or mid-July, I think. And the tournament goes on until later ends of July. So if they get that far, what they're going to do, keep Erik ten Hag for a pre-season game that he's not necessarily going to coach in the long term, or he's not going to stay on tour, it's pointless. But the one thing that I will say, though, guys, that I think inevitably they've let him walk back in the building and everything, like I say. If they do end up keeping him, I think they're keeping him for the wrong reasons, which is I just think that they don't look at the market out there and think that there's a manager that they can get who's an upgrade to replace him. But if you are going to keep him, I don't want this announcement to come out or anything to say Erik ten Hag will remain as Manchester United manager. The announcement should be Erik ten Hag signs, I don't know, a 2-year contract or
100%.
3-year
100%.
contract. You need something to show that you're backing the guy personally, so you believe that he's the right man. You're backing him financially by saying that our plans align with what you believe is best and what we believe is best. We believe you're the best manager for the job. But most importantly, you have to have a manager who's in the door, who Manchester United fans ideally are going to get behind. If these guys give him a new 3-year contract, I think a lot of people, including myself, will probably get behind him more so because this new regime of supposedly football experts believe he's the right guy to take them forward. That's the only thing. But the only thing that I'm thinking negatively of more with Ineos is the way that they've gone about this is completely ridiculous. And you know something? If there wasn't a £10 million payout on the line for Ten Hag, let's say if it was only $1 million or £2 million payout that you get, I think he turned around to him and said, you know what, sod your sands, I'm staying on holiday. Because they've gone behind his back, basically, and tried to pick Thomas Tuchel. Didn't do it. They're getting linked with all these other managers and everything, and Hail Mary and everything. They've never once backed the guy. I mean, even after the FA Cup final, they didn't even accredit him. 100%. They didn't accredit him. Say, thank you, Erik ten Hag, for the great work for this season and blah, 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 about winning the FA Cup. They didn't even give him any recognition. It's disgraceful and it's shameful. But, like I said, the only thing that I think, anyway, with Southgate is he doesn't get me feathers rustling. And as much as the England song says, Southgate, you're the one, you still turn me on, he's not going to fucking turn anything up at Man United. He's really not. He's been up north before and he got a club relegated in Middlesbrough. He's been down south with England for a golden generation and he's done nothing. It was the perfect Euros. It was in our backyard. And he still bottled it. He still bottled it in our backyard. He was a bottler as a player. He's a bottler as a manager. And that's not going to change. And if you put him at Man United, I swear to God, it will be the worst appointment that they ever made in this football club's history.
He is going to just.
But the only thing that I will say as my last point is he is the perfect PR manager. If you want him to be, he's the perfect PR manager because anything you ask him in the press conference. Oh, the regime, it's brilliant. The conditions of the football club. It would be like Ollie on steroids.
He's a politician.
He's a politician. Yeah, you go, Jarvis. He's a politician. He's got an answer for everything, but he doesn't answer it straight to the point how you want it. And that's the thing with us as fans. We need clarity.
Just a small caveat on that, Tom. And this is more food for thought than anything. If Robbo, the great magician that was Robbo, was still around managing today, and you've got Southgate and Robbo in for it, the fans know enough to not want Robbo to come and manage our club, but they adore him as a player, but wouldn't want him to manage our club because he never really reached those heights, did he?
No.
Just a small caveat. I just thought.
I mean, guys, even just as like a last point, like this theory that they've said about they're stirring it up about that they want to play a certain style of football and everything. They want a possession-based style. Gareth Southgate does not fit that style at all.
No.
Arguably, out of the managers that we've been linked with, the only one that made sense to fit that style, out of the ones that's been relatively named, was De Zerbi. That's the only credible one that's been linked. Thomas Frank doesn't play that way. He plays a counter-pressing, counter-attacking style. You know, Thomas Tuchel is more of a tactical, flexible manager. He plays how the opposition is probably against their weaknesses. He plays negatively that impacts the opposition, but then tries to rely on moments in the game, which will then get him over the line. Pochettino, to be honest with you, I think his style of play is blown up for the last couple of years, to be honest with you, wherever he's gone around Europe and stuff. And like Jimmy said at the start of it, we know you know what you're getting yourself, Kay. I saw it.
What were your thoughts on McKenna?
McKenna, I like him as a coach, to be fair. But the only thing that I think, if he came to Man United, was the same players that was here when he was a coach are still here now. And the one thing that those players complained about and leaked to the media was his training sessions were supposedly like to youth league standards. They didn't embrace him and Michael Carrick in terms of leaders, even though Michael Carrick was a legend at the football club. They still didn't embrace him. And as much to say it for what it is, the players was prepared to run through Ole Gunnar Solskjaer through brick walls for him until the pressure came where they have to take a step up and they have to then try and challenge Manchester City consistently. And they couldn't do it. Some of those players, they weren't mentally switched on to do that. That's the problem. But overall, overriding it all, McKenna, I like him as a coach, but the best position that he could, the thing that I think he did, I think he tried to flirt with Chelsea, flirt with Man United a bit and everything. I don't think either of the clubs really pushed to get him. And then I think he's fallen back on his sword and said, well, I'll sign on at Ipswich anyway. The best place that he could have gone to when he got offered there was Brighton, because everything is done for you above, just coach. Everything above. Analytics, player recruitment, it's all done for you, Kieran. And he's at a stable Premier League club where arguably I think if he's as good as a coach as he has been over the last couple of years, he'd keep him in the Premier League easily. He'd probably maybe take on, I would say, more of the work of and emulate maybe what Graham Potter did at Brighton than more deserved, right?
But you see, what you've said there is the reason why I asked the McKenna question, is because I feel like for me, the only reason McKenna was attractive was because I thought it'd be a good option to have for two and a half seasons to come and steady the shit, to just come and steady things a bit while the structure's working behind him, so he doesn't, because he'd be the kind of coach who wouldn't get involved with the politics behind,
because he's not experienced in dealing with that.
Because he's not experienced, so I don't think he would try to get involved in it. I don't think he would want to get involved in it, and he would just focus on the coaching. And I think his football philosophies, for me, are good enough for building a project, if that makes sense. So I think I think he's because he knows how to structure a team, and I think he'll be a good coach to identify the right players to form that structure of that team. So I felt he was a good option to come and steady the ship. And I know it was a far-fetched option, but I think he would have been a good option to come in, steady the ship while the recruitment's happening in the background, and then you have a long-term option after him, and you would have that agreement with him as well to say you're going to be here for this amount of time. Now, leave it open to say if things go so well, then obviously there's an option for him to stay at the club if they wanted to. But at least there's that agreement to say, look, this is a provisional situation. We want you to come in and kickstart this big project that we've got coming. So that's how I looked at it. That's why I asked the question, and it was
But Jimmy, don't you think that's what they are thinking with Southgate if Southgate comes in?
I don't want to hear South. I don't want that man. That man, it doesn't belong in football, let alone coach a football club. He's not. I don't know why or how he's in that job. I don't know. But then England make these weird appointments. So I'm not too surprised. But I mean, if you watch that Iceland game, like I can't remember who said, but there was no tactics in the match, and there was no tactics. But I mean, that's not even the problem. there was no structure to the team. At one point, there was no system at all. You couldn't. The players were just sort of floating around, and the front line was invisible at one point because you really couldn't tell who's playing on the right, who's playing on the left. Now, sometimes that can be a good thing, but this was just because it was pure chaos. The players didn't know what they were doing. They kind of got it back a little bit, 40 minutes, but that was a bit too late at that time. You know, it was half time then. So then they came back in and they looked even worse than they did in the first half. So, you know, and I'm watching, I'm thinking, why are Ineos even taking a call from this guy? What the hell is going on? If they even, I mean, what they don't realize is, and they need to be very careful here. I mean, you know, I'm hoping they're not thinking about actually appointing him. I'm hoping it's a PR thing to just kind of test the waters and see what kind of manager the fan base would accept. But what they need to be careful is, if they keep flirting with the wrong ideas about the club, they're going to lose the fan base fairly quickly, because the fan base we're coming out of a toxic relationship with the Glazers, right? Now that relationship is not finished yet. It's still lingering there in the background. So if Ineos come in and the fan base feels like they're having these really bad ideas, because Southgate is a really bad idea. You know, this is not even, it's unfathomable how bad the idea would be to appoint Southgate, because it's bad from the standpoint of the fan base has made it very clear they don't want Southgate. They don't want Southgate mentioned against Manchester United. So we've made it clear. It would be bad because he would actually make the football the worst football that we would have probably ever seen at the club ever. And the other thing is, if they appointed Southgate, and this is maybe what they wouldn't be thinking about, appointing Southgate would annihilate 50% of the players that you would have tried to recruit in the first place, because those players wouldn't. Now they're not taking your call. If before they were sending you an email back here and there, now they're not taking your phone calls. They're not returning your text messages. If you appoint Southgate, there is not a single young player in this world that you can ask, who do you want to play for? And they'll tell you Gareth Southgate. Not a single youngster in the whole world. You could go to any corner of the world. Not a single young player would tell you that.
I think you're right, Jimmy. Just touching on, just very, very briefly, because I know Jarvis wants to move on now, about McKenna. I think he was in the same position as Alonso. Alonso had a huge decision to make in the summer. And I said on this show, actually, to Jarvis about 5, 6, 7 weeks ago, that if Alonso was to leave Leverkusen, he'd be making a huge mistake. You need to stay, you need to
prove himself for a second
season and prove that your first season wasn't a fluke. And McKenna has to do the same. I think he would have weighed everything up, and I think actually reputational damage would have been his top priority.
Yeah,
I need to keep my reputation. If I go to Old Trafford, I go to Chelsea, I go to Brighton, and I fail, I'm going to be where Graham Potter is at the moment, in the abyss. You know, just as an example of going from a smallish club to a big club in Chelsea. So I think both of them made the right decisions, and I think if McKenna can do 1 or 2 seasons in the Premier League, so if McKenna keeps Ipswich in the Premier League next season, then you will look at him. Eyes will start to look at him longingly. If he does it again, a little bit like Thomas Frank. Thomas Frank come in completely under the radar. Now look at him. He's slowly but surely, his stock is rising.
Yeah, but he's a counter-attacking manager against you, and
no, that's right.
We want that, and that's
it's no good for us. But he will fit somewhere along like Tottenham and be a great fit actually for Thomas Frank. Be a brilliant fit. Utilising Son's pace would be a dream, absolute dream. And when you look at Chelsea hiring the Maresca, the Leicester manager, he's had a brilliant season with Leicester. You know, up and down, tailed off a little bit towards the end. I think massive job. He's taken a big risk, but they're all thinking, he's a Guardiola disciple. Oh, so what? There's 50 Ferguson disciples floating around football still at the moment, managerial coaching. You know, it happens. It's just evolution of football, isn't it? You come out the game and you move on. Wayne Rooney is another great example of not being able to cut it as a manager. Let's see how he does it at Plymouth. Brilliant player, But some of the best managers actually aren't the best players. Mourinho was average at best. Klopp average at best. Fergie average. Wenger below average.
But now you see this coming through now. The young generation of managers, a lot of them haven't even played football themselves. They just focused on managing since a young age. And now you have this
really
new
good
guy,
idea.
Brighton, the new Brighton manager. I think it's a German guy, Fabian Hürschler, or what's his name?
He is.
And 31 years old. He will be the youngest Premier
He's
League
the
manager.
youngest manager.
Coming in from the Bundesliga, St. Pauli. I just see Fergie Time 99 comes in and say breaking sources close to Graham Potter have told Sky News that he will not returning to Brighton as head coach, and that's completely right because they're bringing in this young German guy.
And I like it actually. I've got no issue with somebody studying the game, because if you study the game, you're going to have a more appreciation, a wider appreciation of what you can and can't do within the confines of a football pitch. His problem will always be reputation, and Tom made a great example. If Zidane walks through your door, you're going to think, "Whoa!"
I just feel like if I'm a professional footballer, I want to know that this guy talking to me has done it before.
Yes,
I think just as it maybe it's just from the player's perspective. I feel like they would prefer someone who's played the game at a decent level.
No, I get that, and I do understand it. But interestingly enough, Jimmy, though, in motorsport, there's a small influx of gamers or sim racers that are putting their talents onto the track, and not in F1 or anything of that nature, but in tin top racing, so touring cars and Ginettas and things of that nature. So they are driving and they're taking their skills onto the track, and it does work. I'm kind of with you, Jimmy. I must admit, if I'm in a in a dressing room and somebody comes in and he's telling me what to do, and I'm thinking, really? You're telling me how to play Roberto Carlos? Really? I know silly names to pull out the bag, but the type of ilk of play. Well, you want me to mark De Bruyne like that, or you want me to leave Rodri 20 yards? Why? And stuff like you're questioning in your own mind. And when you're questioning in your own mind, that's where you go rogue in a game of football. You think, well, I'm not doing that, so I'm going to do this. And so, no, I'm with you on that one. But what I can't cope with, and this is a question for you, Jarvis, because I always talk about modernism in the game of football. I just can't cope with somebody with a fucking laptop putting me in an AI kind of or some kind of computer simulation of where I'll be, etc., etc., etc. I still can't cope with that, because, as Jimmy said, the real way you learn and understand football is to get out there and play. One of the things that I did when I was growing up, very short story, and I promise you now, I'll shut up. If I was playing, I was a central midfielder. And I would always try and hone my skills at a second position, whatever that position may be. And as it happened, it was centre half. So I would do as much training at centre half as I would do as a central midfielder.
That's me as well, Stuart. Exactly the same. I was a midfielder, but my second position was centre half.
Yeah. So you become an asset to the team rather than, well, Stu can only play central midfield or right back or left back or centre half or whatever. You become an asset to the team. And I've said this about the likes of Tuanzebe in the past. If I'm looking at the squad and I'm thinking, how am I going to get into that first 11? Who am I going to displace? Well, I'm going to hope of displacing Martinez or Varane. So I'm going to try and displace Dalot, or I'm going to try and displace Shaw. I'm going to try and displace somebody else. So I'm going to learn. I'm going to focus on a second position. I don't see that with our squad. I don't see it, but I've seen it with. Look at Dan Burn up in Newcastle. He's turned into a half decent left back, hasn't he? It's not his position, but he's turning. He's thought, right, I'm not getting in at centre half. What am I going to do? Gaffer, try me at left back. What, can you play left back? Let me have a go.
Let me try. Let me give it a go.
I want to see our types of players do that. Ryan Giggs dropped back, didn't he, to central midfield because he couldn't put it on the wings anymore. I want to see this with our newfound players.
But some players ask, isn't it? Like if you look at Saka's career, for example, he asked to move he was left back.
Yeah, he was.
So he was a left back, and it was him. He said, "Look, I feel like I can play on the wing." And the coach is saying, "Are you sure?" And it took a while for them to actually allow him to try that. And then he was tried in a pre-season game, I think. He was tried, and he played well there, and he never left. And that's how it is. But that's the player themselves saying, "I think I can play there." So players making themselves as dynamic as possible.
You do need, in my opinion, you need that. You've got to be ambidextrous, 2-footed, and you've got to be able to play in two positions.
To a certain extent, yes, yeah.
In my humble opinion,
you have to a certain extent. You definitely have to, yeah.
In my humble opinion,
yeah. And that's the thing, and I think you summed it up greatly, Stu. And you have to have the mentality, and you have to cement your place into the team. It's not like you're entitled to play if you're a midfielder that you will exclusively play midfield. You have to be versatile. You have to have the right mindset and take the chance when you get the chance. And that's just how football works. And there's been a lot of coincidence during footballing history about players coming in through injuries. Like we have heard about players coming in, starting out that, like, for example, Steven Gerrard started out as a right back in his time, and that's just the way it is. You have to cement your and take your chance to get the experience and get the confidence and from the coach, the manager, and suddenly you're in the team, and that's just how it works. I just want to bring in this from ITN. ITN is a great point lines. Let's and through your era of football, however, modern days is about money, and United is suffering at the most at the moment. And I think you're right on, spot on when it comes to this. I just want to bring it back to Ten Hag, because we have been linked to Tuchel, De Zerbi, Southgate, Thomas Frank, Pochettino, Amorim, McKenna, Potter, you name it. There's not a manager out there that we haven't been linked to yet this season. And I came over this today on Twitter. I think it's from Stretford Post, and it will take 3 minutes. So bear with me, and I will just play this and listen, guys, because he makes sense.
Ineos, what have you done? What an absolute mess, shambles, an embarrassment. You have no idea how to run a football club, let alone Manchester United. I've never, ever seen so much disrespect to one manager in my entire life. It is shocking. And I'll tell you now, Sir Jim, your only way out of this now is to build your bridges with Erik Ten Hag. Go to that man, look him in the eye, and apologise. Because it's disgusting. It's so wrong on many levels, like you cannot imagine. The way you treated him, FA Cup final day, your lack of support, your rudeness, your disrespectfulness, that's all that's come through, and your incompetency to even lead a club. And all these promises of change. No different to the Glazers. Like I've said in my other videos, it's disgusting. And now you face an entire army of Manchester United fans staring you in the face, waiting for you to make a decision, because we are all united. The fan base is all as one. And the best thing you can do is announce that there is a new contract they're waiting for Erik Ten Hag to sign. That is the only way you're going to even begin to redeem yourself to try and sort this situation out and move forward. And I told you, we don't need a Jason Wilcox to tell us how to play football. We're Manchester United. We know how to play football our way. And Erik Ten Hag will show you that we play like Manchester United. This man needs the backing, the support, and the foundations to run this club how we all know it should be ran. And this, Sir Jim, literally is your final chance to do anything any good this summer. So sort yourself out. You and Ineos, take yourself to Erik ten Hag, apologise to the fans, and show some leadership and some direction. And let's get on with building our club back to the top.
Yeah. So, perfect post. Who wants to go first and comment on that? Uncle Jimmy.
You see, yeah, I mean, he's got obviously he's got a point. I mean, I picked up on the vibe on the FA Cup win on the day, especially. Maybe not the subsequent days, but on the day, I felt like the energy from the club just wasn't enough. It wasn't what it normally is when a manager wins a cup at the club. Now, I'm not saying that was, anything specific, but it just felt like the ownership weren't visible on the telly, and they weren't everywhere. They weren't sort of shaking hands with everyone. They didn't seem like they were celebrating with the manager when he's celebrating this cup win. So for me, there was an energy there, but I might have just been overreading things. The following subsequent days, again, sort of, it didn't feel as bad, but it still felt really quiet. It didn't feel like Manchester United have just won a trophy. We're a very noisy bunch when we win things. The fan base were noisy, but it felt like the club weren't as noisy. But again, maybe I was just overreading things.
Yeah.
So I get his point. I get the point of his video to say the manager has maybe to a certain degree been disrespected. I think for me, the biggest disrespect actually is the silence. And whether they've had a conversation with Ten Hag or not in the background, now I'm assuming that there's been conversations that are being had. So all parties at the moment, there's no way that all parties aren't aware of what direction this is going to take. So it might not have been finalized in whatever conversations have taken place, but I assure you right now, everyone knows where this is going to go. So they all know where this is going to go. It's just how they get there is the problem. That's where the problem is now. So if Ten Hag is staying, they've already agreed with some handshake agreements here and there. They've agreed. They know this is where we're going to end up. What they're negotiating is what path, what route are we taking? Are we going down the M40 or are we going down the M25? They don't know yet. This is where they are. So regardless of what happens, we know we're going to get there, but how do we get there? So I think either way, there is that problem. So the disrespect for me is that even though they wouldn't want to announce anything now because nothing's been agreed and nothing's been finalized, I think they should have given the fans something to hold on to for the sake of the manager, because at the moment, the fan base are split in half when it comes to the manager. Half the fan base want him gone, half the fan base want him to stay. Now, them being so eerily silent on this issue is meaning that this divide between the fan base is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And what does that cause? It causes hostility from the fan base towards the club, because now that fan base unites against you. They find a common enemy in you, the ownership, and this is what's going to happen. So they need to be careful, because they are disrespecting the manager by being so silent towards the fans, and they're going to lose both parties if they're not careful. So they need to be really careful with that one. So, but I agree, the manager, I think, has been disrespected. But the flip side of that, though, is, hey, look, these guys are going to do what they're going to do. This is their club now. They're in charge. What we like and what we don't like is not their concern. They've got a way that they want to do things, that they think they should do things, and they're going to stick to it. And whether we like it or not, that's what they're going to do. And that is the flip side of it. And I think that might be the reality of the situation, is that, they're going to put two fingers up at us and say, look, you want us to fix this club, just shut the fuck up and wait. That's how they're looking at it.
I see Ian McDonald comes in and say Ten Hag came out guns blazing after the FA Cup. He knew this was going to go down, that frosty handshake getting the trophy while Pep was hugged. Ten Hag knew. So I think a lot of people read into the body language. I saw Jarle Malmin say something similar, and nothing to be confused about. Watch it again and see it for yourself. A slap on the shoulder, not a handshake. So I think people feel the disrespect for Ten Hag after winning the FA Cup. You know, we won against Manchester City, the treble winner from last season. They have all the money in the world and the best setup, the best structure, the best everything, and we managed to beat them. And I must say, from a tactical point of view, what Ten Hag did was close to brilliant. How he set up, how he foresaw everything, how Ten Hag, how Pep would react, how he started playing central in the middle, how he moved up the wingers and played with the 4 up front when I think it was Bernardo Silva dropped down to help to create overload 3 against 2 in the central areas. Then Ten Hag just tucked in the wingers. Suddenly we had 4 against 3. So we had a solution for everything. And how he foreseen this and how he did it was close to, I would say, genius. So in a way, I saw enough to give Ten Hag another season, because I know that he's a good enough manager, from speaking from my own experience. But Stu, how do you feel? Do you feel Ten Hag was disrespected, or should he just understand? You know, we made our worst league appearance. You know, we came in 8th, I believe, or was it 7th?
8th.
8th, yeah.
We came in 8th, and by default finished 6th, kind of, if you think about it, by winning the cup, because we got the Europa League. Yeah, I think he was disrespected. Yeah, absolutely. I think everybody's right to point that out. However, I've said on this channel and other channels before on many occasions, and my life has always been around, I'm a fucking terrible winner and I'm a really bad loser. What happens when you're a bad winner is you can kind of enjoy it, but you can't enjoy it because there's something eating away at you about the game and about what's happened, and certain things get to you. And he should have had a hug rather than a tap on the shoulder. You know, maybe they were trying to hug Pep to see if they could squeeze his neck and maybe suffocate him. I don't know. Who knows? But certainly, you know, Ten Hag should have had a bit more. But then, you know, as soon as you get in the confines of the dressing room, and you know, all these pictures of them, you know, drinking champagne and all that kind of stuff, that happens after you get in the confines of that dressing room. Ten Hag walks in, shut the fuck up, right? Brilliant result, blah 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 blah. But there's always a fucking but, because there should be a but. There should never be, what a brilliant end to the season. Go off on your holiday. It's brilliant result, but our fucking season. Our season was this, and this. And you have to talk about it when it's raw, when emotion is raw. And then people have got to realise that once they get on that coach, you can celebrate to an extent, but you think to yourself, you know what? Why didn't we play like that for most of the season? When we had these players available, why weren't we playing like this? And when... you know, and then you start talking to other players. Look, I was injured. Why didn't you step up better? Why did you make this mistake? Why did you make that error? And these are what professional footballers do. People might not want to hear that, but you do. You do it at all levels of football, actually. You're always talking. We won 5-0 today. Yeah, but you hit the fucking post from 5 yards out. We could have won 6-0. And that goal could have been enough to get us 6th place rather than 7th place. You've got to be overly critical all the time. And so, as much as the disrespect to me was a problem, I would brush it off anyway. You know, I want to get on with it. You know, go down, do what you got to do out in public, but deal with it. Be after. I think, Jimmy, I think you're right. I think Ten Hag knows. He's well aware now what his situation is. I really do, and it was dire. I did say it was dire. I think, didn't I? I did say it was dire, didn't I? Yeah. And I think he does know, Jimmy. I think, but he won't have dealt with it. He's gone on holiday, but his agents will be in there. His agents will be talking to the club daily, or they don't have to talk to the club daily because they know what's going on. And that's where we are. And right now, we're kind of, like I said before, right at the very, very beginning, we're in this non-event situation that if he's carrying on, does the club need to let anybody know because he's got a contract anyway?
Yeah. Well, but that's what I've said this before, to say,
exactly.
Why is everyone saying, well, the club should just announce it? What are they announcing? He's the manager now. They're not announcing. He's not a new manager. What do you want them to announce? What they should announce is if he's not staying. So if they haven't made that decision yet, just shut the fuck up and wait. Why is everyone? What do you want them to announce? Announce that he's staying. Well, he's staying. Of course, he's the manager. He's got a contract. Of course, he's staying. Unless he's sacked, then they will announce that. You know. So people need to just ask yourself, what are we asking for here? What is it that we are requiring? Ineos is shit for not announcing. How can you call them shit for not announcing that nothing's changed? What do you want from these people? Just let them make a decision. When they make a decision, guess what? Then they'll tell us, you know?
Exactly.
But I do believe all parties, they all know exactly what's going to happen. They just don't know how to get there yet.
Before we move in, I understand you have to go in a couple of minutes, Jimmy. Before you go, I just wanna share this for you because this is your guy, Kobe Mainu. Clarence Seedorf come in and say, Kobe Mainu, he reminds me of a young me with his body movement, but it's the thing that never that I had.
Do you remember me saying this? Do you remember me?
I do.
Was I on his show when I said it?
You said Seedorf, you did,
bro.
You did.
Listen, when people laugh at me, listen, I might not be a tactical, but I'm telling you, and I do understand football, guys. I do watch football, and when I say things, I don't just say things for the sake of it. I said it from earlier. I said the way he moves, because he's heavy on the ground, but then he's not at the same time. It's like does this weird, you know, it's almost like a robot with magnetic feet on a metal surface, and then but then it can just release itself and jet off at the same time. It's like he's a good grounded, smart player. He knows how to use his body well. He knows how to use his frame really well, you know. And Seedorf was exactly the same. Really intelligent, very intelligent player.
I remember you saying it, Jimmy. It's a self-indulgence from Seedorf that made me laugh.
You know what? He was never. He was. Listen, Clarence Seedorf though was that especially when he was in his early years, because I think he always fancied himself against the kind of the Pelés and because I think he did an interview at one point where he said, no, I think I would liken myself to Pele or something like that, and it was just before like a semi-final where he had the worst game of his career.
I mean, he's a wonderful player, but yeah, it's a little bit kind of like, you know. But no, I was on the show, Jimmy. I remember you talking about him. I was on the show.
He just reminded me of him. Yeah,
you did. I think it was after. I can't remember when it was, but I do remember you talking. I've got a feeling it was after the Wolves game. When he scored, which was my goal of the season, by the way. Wasn't it, Jarvis? I got my goal.
Yes,
mine is. Hang on, is Garnacho's? No, Garnacho was last season, wasn't it? Was it previously?
No. Garnacho's was this, and I get why everybody put Garnacho as goal of the season. And I said to Jarvis, I get it 100%, but I always think sometimes with goal of the season, there don't always have to be one-offs. And Mino got the ability to do that again, and he almost did, didn't he, against Liverpool?
For me, it's the celebration after the celebration after the goal was brilliant. Just, you know, when he just like his face is just like I'm here. You know, I like that. I like when young players are like that sometimes.
Garnacho would have won it all day long, and I get it. You know, a great kicker. I do. I understand it, but
I think did Ronaldo say Garnacho's is the goal of the season? I think Ronaldo voted it as goal of the season.
And I think people love an over a kick, don't they? But I always remember I was in the I was at Old Trafford when Mkhitaryan popped in the scorpion kick against Newcastle, and he didn't make much of it, did he? If you remember his celebration, it was a great celebration, but it was nothing of it. And then that bell end Giroud popped one in, didn't he? About 4 weeks later, and then he starts running off doing this stupid scorpion celebration. And I always remember it because everybody talks about Giroud's scorpion kick, and they don't talk about Mkhitaryan's.
Because they didn't make a big deal of it.
They didn't make a big deal of it. Exactly right.
Because they didn't make a big deal of it.
I think that's where we are with. So I looked at the Kobe Mainoo goal, and I looked at the strength, the ability,
to hold off that defender like that.
Correct.
Like he's a child. I mean, he made him look like a child. He just
and
then
it's
like just move off, boy. Let me
exactly right. And then get around the player, and then guide it home. Brilliant goal.
It was a great goal. Smart goal. Very smart goal.
Very smart. But just a Q&A, Jarvis, I think.
Can you just hold the fort for 1 minute? George Mano just sent me some breaking news, but I think it's related to this one. Juddy Sports is bringing it out. He said the breaking Manchester United were keen on Gareth Southgate, but has moved on from him because the timeline doesn't align.
So I'm going to say one thing, Jarvis. Nobody fucking knows.
That is, I think this Southgate news is absolute bullshit.
Nobody knows.
I'm telling you now. I think there's absolutely. I'd go as far as saying I don't think Ineos even ever considered him remotely. I don't think that. There's no way. No, I mean, unless it's like really for political and PR, super PR reasons. I get that. But if it's football that they're trying to do at the club, because if it's not football, then we have a much bigger problem on our hands. If their first managerial appointment is for PR reasons, then fuck me, we are in so much trouble. We're in more trouble than we ever would have imagined. So let's hope that's not the case. So if they're coming to do football, there's not a chance in hell they watch any Southgate managed game and they've come away thinking, yeah, that's the one. That's it. This is what we want to see. Not a fucking chance. Absolutely no chance.
Uncle Jimmy, just before you go, then let's give you a question because we do a Q&A session now. We've been doing it for a while.
Hold up, quick. I have something we have to do before we go to the Q&A. It will take 2 minutes. I'm just going to go through the latest news from Rush Mano. Always keeping us up to date. So this is the latest news. I will just share this.
Apologies, Gaffer.
So this is what we were talking about. Gareth Southgate put all contract talks with England on hold until after the Euros. So we refuse to talk to any other club, such as Man United, who have shown interest in him during preparation for the summer. So basically, we will have nothing on Southgate until after the Euros then.
There's nothing to have on Southgate. He can fuck off.
And if we get through to the final, we'd have played our first friendly.
Yeah. And the next thing is coming up. Omari Forson has I can't even read what's in here. He's going to leave to Monza.
Yeah, gone to Monza. Yeah, it's a good move for him. It's a good move for him. Right? I hope we've got a buy-on clause or a sell-on clause.
I think he went out of contract, so he didn't sign a new contract. So he's a free agent.
He was out of contract, wasn't he? Of course, yes.
Oh, yes, he is.
Yes, he was. Yes, that's a shame.
That's a shame.
How do we allow that for a young player who's very promising like he is?
Yes, he was.
How do you allow them to just run out of a contract like that? That's weird.
Yeah, see, Yale comes in and say Forson leaves for free. So
two first-team appearances. Or is it 3? 2 or 3 anyway, squads, plenty of squads.
Game time from the academy. So you would think that he would stay on or at least sign a new contract and get a loan. But, young footballers today, some wants to go out in the world and try on their own.
Well, do you know what? All credit to him for wanting to play football.
Yeah.
All credit to him.
I agree.
No problem with that. All credit.
Next news is Frankie de Jong breaking. He will miss the Euros 2024 and return to Barcelona due to physical conditions. So we can't force after his injury, and there's danger to make it even worse or more serious. So I think that's the end of the Frankie de Jong saga this summer. We won't sign him.
So we dodged a bullet then.
We just.
Yeah, do you think we will dodge a bullet with Frankie? Isn't he good enough for us?
Nah, no.
You don't rate him?
I think you would have to build a very, very specific midfield to have him in that midfield.
Yes, you would. You would. Interestingly enough, and I said this a couple of years ago on AFU when we were linked with him, and I posed a question, and I said, everybody's raving about Frankie de Jong, and I said, were you talking about him 12 months ago? No. Were you talking about him 18 months ago? No. 2 years ago? No. Why now? Why all of a sudden? Nobody can tell you. Nobody. It's all this hype. We get into this hype with wanting these certain players.
It's the same with managers. That's what we're doing with managers as well. It's
exactly
the hype.
Right.
Everyone's like, "Oh, De Zerbi. Why do you want De Zerbi? Why do you want Tuchel? Why do people just say things?" I know why I want the managers. I know why I want Ten Hag to stay at the club.
Yeah.
Because I've seen things that I like in the football, and I think that if the right players come in, those things can literally be tweaked and make it instantly improve the football. And I can see those very specific things, and I think Ten Hag is wise enough to see those things. So I can see that there's a chance that the football's going to get better at the club next season, and that's why I want him to stay. But people won't tell you that. People say Tuchel. I'm like, why do you want Tuchel? He failed with a Bayern Munich team that had every position was an 8-rated player at least in that squad, right? And he still failed with that squad. So why do you want Tuchel? What's Tuchel done? Why are people so obsessed with Tuchel? And I'm not saying that I don't want Tuchel. I'm saying, why do you want him? Why do people just say the name?
Yeah, give me a reason.
Tell me why you want him. Why Tuchel?
Exactly.
If you don't want Poch or you want Poch, why do you want Poch? Why don't you want Poch? When people give me realistic names of managers and they can tell me why they want those managers, then I'll agree with it. That's absolutely fine. But don't just shout and blurt out names just because it's the hype. Everything is hype. Shut up, man. Just go do some research and see what you like. See what you actually like, not what the guy that you follow that you praise like God likes. It's about what do you like?
You should have been on the show 2 weeks ago because we posed the same question, didn't we, Jarvis? We asked the same question. We said exactly the same. Uncle Jimmy, spot on, mate. Mick's just dropped me, the gaffer has dropped me a text, assistant gaffer. Can you read out the poll results, please?
I will after the last news. And the last thing we have here is breaking. FC Barcelona has made an offer for Jeremy Frimpong. And we've been linked to Frimpong for at least 6 months.
Yeah.
So things are happening, and
I think he's playing at such a good level that I think he's got options, hasn't he? I don't think he would have chose Manchester United, to be fair.
A great player. He's a great player.
Really good player.
I like him. But I agree. I think if we can get cheaper, somebody like Robinson from
it's good. Premier League proven.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that's the end of the news section. I would say a big thank you to Rush Mano for bringing me all this news. People, if you don't follow Rush Mano on Twitter, because he has always and he's reliable.
I'm gonna love you and leave you guys. I'm gonna shoot.
All right, Jimmy.
Yeah, man.
Good to see you again, pal. Good to have you on.
Thanks for having me on the show, guy. All the listeners, man, hit the like button. Don't forget to hit the like button. Subscribe. See you later, guys. Good night.
Cheers, Jimmy.
Good night.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed that because Uncle Jimmy, an absolute legend, knows his stuff as well. It is time for the Q&A. We haven't had time to do a little video. We'll ask Mick to get a little video, 10-second video with a Q&A on it. Probably Jarvis opening with his mouth open and Q&A coming out of it, something like that. That's it, yes. Something like that. So you've just got me and Jarvis. I hope you've enjoyed the show. There's been tons of you watching. Or show actually, which has been absolutely brilliant. The VAR room has been top drawer as always. Some brilliant points made by everybody. Our apologies for not getting to read some of the comments out or any of your comments really. but I hope you've enjoyed the conversation. So it is Q&A now. So as me and Jarvis is here, we'll get through this relatively quickly, I would imagine. That's probably right thing. So the first question is from the gaffer, Mick. Good to see Mick. He's been in the background, by the way, putting a poll out. Just before we do that, could you put the poll results up?
Yeah, maybe I can read out the result at least. Oh no, where's the poll? Oh, Mick, you have to bring me the poll. Okay, the last poll was: who would you rather see managing Man United 24-25, also next season? And there's a staggering 84% who wants Ten Hag to stay as manager. 4% want Southgate in, and 12% would like Jim Carrey and the Yes Man. So basically, I think most of the VAR room and the viewers of our channel would like Ten Hag to stay. And I think that's basically where the fan base is at the moment, around 80-85% Ten Hag.
I'd agree. Yeah, I'd agree.
Oh my God, we have some gifts here.
Oh dear, sorry, Rashmana. What is 50? Bloody hell, 50.
Oh, it deserves one.
Oh my God. Absolutely tremendous.
Oh my God.
You're going to be here forever reading these out.
I don't know if I even can read out all these names. You know me and reading.
Yes.
Where's my glasses?
Where's your glass? Hey, Jarvis, I've come prepared for you today. There you go, pal. If you wear yours, I'll wear mine.
Would you like to read them out?
Where do I get them from?
They're in the chat. You have to open the YouTube.
Oh, crikey, I've got to open my YouTube chat. Let me see. You start, and then I'll count.
Okay,
I'll
take start.
Yeah, I'll take over.
Jody Sports, Ramo, Abdicody, Ken Ogawa, Alan McBee, Alex Black, NG Zens Keong. Sorry for slating your name. Bacon Butty, Red One United, Belfast Man United Therapy, great name. Danny Walshy, Jacob Eno, Isaac Madu, Bakar Hamed, Espo, N. Van Dam, not Van Dam, yeah, Van Dam.
Yeah, Van Dam, yeah.
Scooby, and Neville Mackenzie.
And I've got Georgie Best, the legend.
Ooh.
Raj, I'll just go with Raj. Andre Van Leven, I hope I haven't butchered your name there, buddy. Abdullah Daniels, the Angry Jawa, I love that. That's brilliant. That is the Angry Jawa. Mad Mag. Who else have we got? We've got Charles Redcliffe. We've got Isaiah Mania, Jojo, Gaza. Who else have we got? We've got.
I have someone here. We have Scooby.
We've got Black Hole. I love Black Hole. We've got Contrarian, Louis. Let's have a look. Elon Musk. Joey 75. Alan Krogshava. Again, I'm so sorry if I butchered your name. Kerfuffles. I love that. Kerfuffle. Now, kerfuffle in England, in English, somebody will say, stop calling a kerfuffle. So he's like having a bit of a pop at somebody or whatever. I do like that one. Mark Holt, Kingslayer. Oh, we like Kingslayer. MUSC 14, Tony Bond, Vicky. I don't think that's our Vicky, but I think it's another Vicky.
Okay.
Rob Taff. I like that one. Tom Hudson, Rajit Singh, Mubin Atari, Joshua Peter, Milosh. Your mate Milosh.
Oh, Milosh. Dobrovic.
Jolek, Jolek, Jolek. I think he's Finnish.
That was the last one.
Philip Jolek. I've got Philip Sutton, Neville Mackenzie. And did you, you did Scooby was your last one, didn't you?
Yeah, Scooby was my last one. Yeah.
So I've got Waxabi Gaming. So Rushmano, you absolute legend. I think we've got all 50. If we haven't, our sincere apologies, but I think we got all 50 there, old friend.
Yes.
What an absolute legend Rushmano is. Get and follow him. Please like and subscribe, everybody. There's still about 153 or so of you watching on all channels. I'll take my specs off now. And you've been absolutely superb today. So keep your questions coming in. So a question from the gaffer. We've already really covered this. So is there anything else you want to add? It's obviously it's spoken to Phil Brown. Phil Brown's a great a friend of the show. Very much in the know. Very much in the know at Old Trafford. But the gaffer's saying, do you think this is a hoax to get fans on board with Eric Ten Hag? I know we've covered it, but maybe briefly.
Yeah, personally, I find it hard to wrap my mind around why they would like Southgate, because he's not a good manager. He has nothing to show for other than managing the England team, and he hasn't done well with them either, because one of the best generations haven't won anything. So for me, it's a big no. But I rate Phil Brown and the Mufcteers. They have knowledge, so there could be something in it. So just Man United fans and the fan base, embrace yourself, because it's going to get rough if Southgate gets in.
Well said. Well said. Yeah. The gaffer again has come in with, I think it's a brilliant question. This, where is Ole Solskjaer
Before
going?
you say that question, people, do me a favor. Ask us questions for the Q&A session. Get those questions in. You can ask us about anything. What's Stu's favorite color? Who do you think will win the Euros? Who will be our next signing? Whatever. Now is your time. So get the questions in.
Yes, please. Whatever you want to know, please ask. I think it's a great question because there's a two-part question, and it will follow on with this question as well. Isn't Ole going to Leicester? So we believe that Mr. Solskjaer is in advanced talks at Leicester City as one of the contenders to become manager. I think it'd be a brilliant appointment if he does. However, would we take him back as assistant coach, bonding with the players? I'd like to see him come in at a more senior level. But this player liaison role that they're discussing with Jaap Stam, currently, if Jaap Stam's the one to be had, I think Ole, with his knowledge of the club, his likability, would be absolutely brilliant for that position. I think Jaap Stam would be good, but I do believe that Ole would be better for that position. So, Nick, I hope we've answered your question as well. We do believe that Ole is in advanced talks with Leicester. Great appointment, though. I have to say for Leicester, great appointment.
Yeah, I would love to see Ole back into the Premier League. As a fellow Norwegian, Ole's been a hero for me growing up, and what he have achieved as a footballer and also as a manager. I respect him. It didn't get well at the end at Man United, but he achieved some things, and I would say the Ole period was the best period of the last after Fergie when he came in. I was proud to be a Man United supporter again, and I was excited watching the team play.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Yeah, I'm with you on Ole. I think there are certain players that have an affinity to the club. I mean, there's loads of them, and they've got an affinity to the club for a multitude of reasons. People love Vidic because he would get in, put his face in there. Stevie Bruce would do the same. Pallister was more of a Rolls Royce, very much like Ince Joe Jordan, would take his teeth out before he used to play, and he used to headbutt people on the pitch, fight absolutely anybody. Sammy McIlroy was dainty but brilliant with the ball at his feet, very close control. Roy Keane, absolutely hard as nails, elbow you out the way. You've got all these players holding affinity, and Ole definitely steals the heart, and it's not just for his goal in the one of the European. The Champions League that time. It was his overall effort and ethics that he applied to football. So an absolute legend. Another great question here by Mick, and this one's for you, Jarvis. Do you think AI will change how coaching and managing games, as managers will play a big part? No longer needed to play the game well. Okay, so I think what Mick's saying is, do we think AI is going to take over and managers will be redundant at some point?
Well, let me think about it. I can do a comparison. I don't know if you guys watch chess, but I do sometimes. We have the Norwegian chess world champion Magnus Carlsen, and in chess you always see the next move by the AI supercomputer predicting what's the best move, and basically I would say it helps the game, but the people who are doing it needs to think for themselves. And I think it will be the same with football. They can set up, they can drill, they can train, they can predict whatever coming up, but when you're on the pitch, it's 11 against 11, and you have no supercomputer in your brain besides your brain, and you have just use your own humanity in a way. But how manager will set up, I think there will be I think every manager will have a way out to counter the opposite manager. So you just have to be creative enough to beat your opposition. But maybe the end game will be that everything will be boring, everything will be set up perfectly, and we will see 0-0 every game with no chances created. But let's hope not.
I think it's a great question. I work in the automotive sector, and AI is huge in automotive. Jarvis himself owns a Tesla that he could whistle, and it comes walking like a dog to him. But Jarvis may or may not suffer from motion sickness if he was to put it into AI mode, where he's got the sensation of not being able to brake, not being able to steer, etc. People going into motion sickness. You can have the same thing with football in a very strange analogy. When you're trying to look at the way that computer simulations are going to set things out, is nothing to do with reality. So where you've got to put yourself in the position of, do you like control, and how much control do you like, and how much control AI will take away, and how clinical football will become. One of the best things about football is decisions go for you and they go against you. If it's that clinical, where it's a matter of milli-inches and things of that nature that AI is telling you, will it take the enjoyment out of the game? Time will tell.
Yeah.
We're in a digital age. We're heading down an even more of a digital age. You've all seen the futuristic films about what things are going to be like in the future. Do we want a piece of that? Not me particular. I'm an analog guy. Modernism in football can work to an extent, but you got to learn to cut the cord sometime, and I think AI is a step too far for me.
But another thing when in the future will be, for example, the medical staff, everything will be, they will just take a blood test and they will know everything about the player, the genetics of everything. They can predict injuries. So I think the how it will evolve itself in the future will be far from a long way from what we see today, with a lot of injuries and stuff like that.
I mean, I know when the players go back for pre-season, they get clipped in the ear with a blood thing, and it injects a little thing into their ear, and it tells the data, everything they need to know about their bloodstream, and it's just one of those. Brendan, great to have you on board again, mate. Thank you very much for your question. I know you've been watching, so we've pretty much covered your question there. We both feel that Erik ten Hag knows, and his agents know, but for some reason the club deem it not necessary to communicate to us. So what that tells us, we don't know, but we both agree that there's nothing to discuss. If they're staying on, they don't have to say anything because he just turns up for work. So one of those. Another one again, Nicholas, thank you again. Again, we've answered this question as well. it could well be that the club are doing their due diligence. Ten Hag might have had a conversation and said, I'll stay for the 24-25 season, then I will leave, and there'll be a payoff for him and things of that nature. But you have to do your due diligence. You know, if Jarvis was looking for staff, and he's looking to poach staff, you know, if I'm doing it for my business, we have to do our due diligence. People are always talking all the time. Happens in F1, MotoGP, all the time.
I just want to say I got a DM from Rashmano. There's a new breaking news from David Ornstein breaking down all the managerial situation of the club. Unfortunately, I can't play it because of copyrights, so you have to check it out yourself after the show.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Again, the gaffer's popped in with one. In fact, I'll tell you what, we'll go with Stephanie's question. We'll come back to Mix. Stephanie, question to the panel. Last 2 seasons, we have scored 58 and 57 Premier League goals. Will we get to 59 next year? The consistency, we need more 75 plus. How does this happen? Absolutely great question. And Jarvis is going to explain how you get 75 plus goals a season.
Yeah, first of all, we have to take our chances.
Yeah.
And because it's not about scoring most goals, it's about winning games, winning 1-0, 2-1. That's good enough in a way. But I think we will see more goals from Højlund. I think we understood how to utilize him at the second half of the season. He gets more experience, and I think he will come good. Same with Garnacho. He's young. He's gained a lot of experience this season, and he will improve for sure. When it comes to Rashford, or I don't know who will come in, Ulisse or another, I don't know who will come in, but I think also if we just stick with Rashford, I think he will come good next season, at least better than this season. He usually go 1 season off, 1 season on. So next season will be Rashford season again, hopefully. I think also the setup looks better. We play more as a unit now when we attack. I think we have better patterns. And I think Ten Hag, after Wilcox came in, has moderated himself a little bit from the gung-ho basketballification back and forward football and cherish possession a little bit more. And I think that will give results when the season begins. So I don't know if we can score 75 plus goals, but I think we will improve for sure next season if the squad stays injury-free.
I'll just put my little 2 penneth into there, Steph. We scored 58 and 57 goals. Harry Kane is your missing 26, 27 goals because we know he would score 27, 28, 29, 30 goals. Harry Kane alone would have got us over 75 goals. I know he's a trophy killer, as he's now nicknamed, bless him. Real shame. But a player of that ilk is what we need to back up. An improving Højlund, who scored something like 16 goals in all competitions last season, which I don't think is a bad haul. So you need somebody of Harry Kane's ilk to come in and add to that 25 goals.
Yeah. But Stu, do you think we will bring in a more experienced striker in the summer window?
I think we need to. I've got absolutely no problems with your suggestion of Jarrod Bowen. I've got no issues with him at all. Got no problems with Ollie Watkins either. We won't probably get those players, but those are the types of players that can add 15 to 20 goals a season. With a better team around them, they will score more goals. Look at what Isak did for Newcastle as an example. You know, he was injured a lot of the season, but he came and he scored goals. Those are the types of players that people won't like. The fan base will hate them. The Harry Kane thing, the fan base will hate. But there is your difference. The question was, how can we get these extra 26, 27 goals? Harry Kane's your man. Or Jarrod Bowen will certainly add 16, 17 to it. And then
20.
And then sharing around with your Rashford and your Garnacho will help you get to where you want to go. So it's that type of player, maybe Benjamin Sesko, but we're talking here Premier League proven. And that's what.
But as we have been speaking about on earlier occasions, on Jarvis's corner, Højlund needs to improve his game and needs to learn. And that's why I would like to see a little bit more experienced striker coming in.
Exactly.
I don't think a Højlund and Ethan Wheatley as our only options next season
it's not going to work.
Will bring us forward.
Wheatley will score when he comes on. He'll score in cup competitions. No two ways about it. He's a very, very talented footballer, but we need somebody of the types of players we're discussing. You also mentioned that you would love to bring in. Oh God, why is it gone now? Ross Barkley. Just name went, but I think I think Villa put a £5 million bid in for him, haven't they? They've decided to go for it. £5 million. Jesus, what a steal! I hope that definitely.
I'll take Ivan Toney.
Yeah, Ivan Toney as well. Yeah, again, a player of that ilk. I hope that answers your question, Steph. She's also asking about any news on Amrabat. There isn't that we know of. We can ask Mick, and next time he's on, we can.
Yeah, there is some news I read about that we were speaking to Amrabat about this new contract. Where do I have it? I think I clipped it somewhere. Well, there is some negotiations on a new deal, but nothing settled yet.
If we can pick him up for 8 million, it'd be a steal.
Well,
plus what we've already paid. If we can get him
at 8. It's 13 million. That's all already negotiated.
Oh. If we could get him at 13, I still think it'd be okay. I'd be happy with that as a squad player. Yeah. Question: Are England screwed? Sorry, Dave. 147. Thank you for your question, mate. Are England screwed defensively? No Everton anchor in Branthwaite, Tarkowski. No Max Kilman, who I rate as Jarvis will tell you, or Dan Burn, proper defenders. You're absolutely right, Dan. We got problems. Yes, no two ways about it. John Stones picked up a knock against Iceland. We don't know to what extent he is. Luke Shaw is still injured. They couldn't gamble on the fitness of Maguire, who would have been a starter, I believe. We're quarter-finalists at most, Dave. I hope you don't mind me answering that as a native, as an Englishman, Jarvis.
No, you're fine. You know, but the thing is, they started Guehi, and who started last game? I just have to check the lineups. John Stones and Guehi started at centre backs.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Walker and Trippier. So basically, the problem for Southgate now, he plays the 4-2-3-1 as a default setup, and he tries with a high pressure. And we have the same problems that Ten Hag had at Man United. It creates a gap between, because I would say it's not about the defense, because the defense is what they are at the moment. You know, they have to press high if the rest are pressing up high. So then you get exposed sometimes. So for me, I think the biggest problems for Southgate is the same as Ten Hag, is press play, because they are too easily run through or play through in the press play. So I think Southgate needs to improve his press play for England to come good, England's defense.
Yeah, we both. I think both our countries had a bad friendlies, didn't they? You got beat by Denmark, didn't you? 3-1.
Yeah, 3-1.
Yeah, we got beat by Iceland 1-0. So there you go. Ellie Tenner was an absolute perler for you. G-Man. Look, the guy's a model, Alien Tenno. Come on now, look at him. He's stunning. He doesn't need to shave. It just drops off automatically.
Yeah.
What a lovely question.
Like this. No hair gel, nothing.
He just does that. That's all he needs to do. He's got supple skin, as Jarvis. That's all he needs to do. He can't do it. If he does that too much, he gets a patch. Bit of a bald patch there, don't you, pal? He just does that.
No, I don't want a patch. No.
There's an old saying in the UK, Jarvis, Ellie and Tenno will know this. Do you shave or does the cat lick it off? That's the old saying. I don't know why. Brilliant question, though.
Every other YouTube football channel has this. What's the name of that?
Manscape, yeah. We don't want to be sponsored by that. We want to be sponsored by Gillette, don't we? Someone like that. Wicker, lovely name. Thank you for your question, Alien Tenno. It's made us giggle, that pal. Well done. Do you think Ineos will try to bring back Mason Greenwood and Jadon Sancho? Short answer, no. And there's two reasons for it. Sancho, you can't have back because I can't imagine the fan base will ever accept him. Same with Greenwood. But they're both valuable in the market today. And Ineos, as we explained, was it last week? We explained the complexities of squad building. Where there's value, there are occasions where you just have to take it. Where you have to take that money. And I think there's about £80 million there of money to be had. So very, very short wicket and very simply, no, I don't think they will. Jarvis?
Yeah, I agree. When it comes to this, Fabrizio Romano came out and they say breaking, Man United have decided to sell Jadon Sancho. No doubt about that. Fee requested by Dortmund or any other club remains £40 million as an initial price tag to sign Sancho. So
Totally.
when Fabrizio Romano tells it could be two things. Either we put Sancho out for sale, tells everybody it's 40 million.
Yes.
That's the one, or it's actually the truth. But either way, I think we're trying to sell Sancho.
I'm leaning towards that. So, Lilith, thank you for your question. Do we think Greenwood stays or goes? I think he goes. I think Juventus is his destination. I don't know why. I just believe it'd be a great destination for him. Yeah. Or if they're looking to do something with anyone from Benfica or Barcelona, if you could offset Greenwood to Benfica for the João Neves money, which it looks like we're going hell bent to get Neves. Then I think that'd be a good bit of business all round. And I think it'd be great for Greenwood. He'd establish a real reputation there and he'd be able to go on and do what he wants to do in football away from Manchester United, which I think is the right thing for him and the right thing for the club. Thank you for your question, Lilith. Ian McDonald, we've got this one and we've just got Mick's other question, which I've saved to last. Question for the panel. If Mick Source goes, how much will it cost to bring in a player that can replace his goals, and who would replace him? You see, as much as people have a pop at McSauce, me included, this is a brilliant question because it's all right having a pop at a player, but you've got to look at the ramifications of a sale of a player. So the Greenwoods and the Sancho sales are very straightforward economic choices and also club choices because and fan choices because we won't accept them back. McSauce offers a more, and you're absolutely right, Ian, a difficult proposition. Although my understanding, and I don't know too much about João Neves, Jarvis, and I know you do, but apart from him being an expert ball player with vision and speed, and great passing ability, does he notch?
Sorry, I just got a message from
João Neves. Does he not? He's a very good player, isn't he?
He's very technical on the ball.
Yes,
he's
very technical. Yes,
he's very in balance all the time. He's very mature in the way he plays, and he's a number 6. He can also play as a number 8. So I think basically he would fit us perfectly. He would be one of the top signings for us, and he will fill a role that's that we need, a number 6, because it looks like Casemiro is leaving, and we don't know the future of Amrabat. So for me, he would be a good signing. The only thing is we will lack experience in the midfield because playing as a number 6 is a role where you need experience. You need to have the
Rodri, is he? He's not as tall as Rodri either, is he?
No, he's not. He's very, like I would say, stocky. He's very, but he's not very tall.
Yeah. I would like to see him, Palhinha, and Meno as our midfield 3 next season, but I'm not going to get that because
Palhinha is going to Bayern. Unfortunately,
well, they took the piss, didn't they? By the Cats, they went in with 30 million, so they've got to go in with some more, haven't they? To do it. It's
I would like to on this question too when it comes to McTominay, because I think we need to keep him. At the current moment,
consistent,
and I think he brings something to the squad that no other player do. He has a special ability. He knows how to press, and he's, I would say, semi-versatile. He can play as the number 10. He can play as the number 8, and sometimes even number 6. Even though I don't like it when needed. And he's a stand-up guy. He always tries his hardest and do the basics right. But he's not the best footballer. So in time, if you want to improve, McTominay is one of the players who need to go, but not this summer.
He is the dilemma for me, McTominay. I think you're absolutely right. I think brilliantly explained. So I hope you're okay with that answer. Final question of the evening. I think we've probably saved the most controversial question for last, and that is: do you think Erik ten Hag screwed Ineos over by actually winning the FA Cup? The gaffer's saying they didn't expect him to win, hence the long face from Jim's tap on the shoulder. I mean, it's a controversial question. It'll be a controversial answer by both of us. But I'm sorry, Jarvis. I'm gonna stiff you on this one and give it to you first, and I'll come in.
Yeah.
After.
Well, it's a good question, but the thing is, I've been thinking the same. Because I think Ineos had made up their mind, and they, if you're planning the future of the club, you wouldn't go this way, waiting so many weeks after the season ended before you announce the manager. I think they were 100% set to sack Ten Hag after the FA Cup, after the loss against City, coming in 7th or 8th in the league, -1 goal difference. It wasn't good enough. But then magically we won against Manchester City, and suddenly everything turned. And I think Ineos didn't plan for this. No one thought we would win against City. Not even the biggest Man United supporter believed we could win. And remember, the day before it came out, something was leaked to the press. Ten Hag is getting sacked. And suddenly we won. So I think he put them in a great dilemma, and I think Ineos understands they don't want to be the Glazers. Glazers sacked Van Gaal after the FA Cup, and people didn't like it. It was disrespectful.
We didn't. Yeah.
And now I think they just need to do a new assessment, and I'm not sure even if they know if they want to keep Ten Hag or not. What do you think, Stu?
I think it's a great question. I think it's a question that needs to be asked. And this is the type of question that's not been played out in the mainstream media. This is the question that the mainstream media should be asking, but shied away from. And this is why you're getting all this type of conjecture right now. Is he staying? Is he going? All this kind of crap. And this is why at the very beginning of the show, my stance was they've got nothing to say because he's contracted to Manchester United to the end of 2025 season. Okay. So, but I absolutely agree with this. I think there were elements and people within the club that decided that we needed a fresh start, a new face at the club, because what was happening on the pitch wasn't acceptable. The players didn't buy or didn't want Ten Hag there. You'd had all these leaks coming out of training, etc., etc., etc. And I think it was a bit of a. I think the final whistle went, and Ratcliffe looked at Brailsford and thought, "Oh shit, the optics on this will be terrible. The optics will be terrible." But I also fail to believe that they wouldn't have thought about that as well, because again, you're talking about some serious operators. You're talking about some serious businessmen. There is no love lost in sport. Sport is ruthless.
Yeah.
I mean, the way that Brailsford got rid of Victoria Pendleton or Victoria Pendleton was let go from British cycling was abysmal, but it happens. Ferguson did the same with Brian Robson and Steve Bruce. It was horrible, but it happens. Sport is ruthless.
Roy Keane.
Roy Keane, and I think there is an element of that to it. When I think they've looked at it, and the word they've used, as I said, is optics. I think they've come to a decision and a conclusion that it's probably not the right move. So difficult one to answer, but we've had 2 more questions roll in, so we'll tackle those.
Yeah.
How much for Neves? Is he a priority? My understanding is we want to try and get him for 60, 50 to 60. They want 75. There'll be an add-on deal. So we may get him for 60 or 50, 55, but there will be add-ons. And is he a priority? I think it appears to be. I think he appears to be the priority. What do you think?
Yeah. Also, when you go with what Ineos said, they want players on their first and second professional contract, and Neves is only 19 years old. Paying, let's say, even 100 million for a player like him, the resale value won't go away. And I think that's
he's only going up, isn't he? He's only going up, isn't he?
So it's kind of an investment. It's a lot of money, but it's an investment even for the future. And if we are building for the future, it makes sense. So I don't know the price. We are talking about 65 million plus 10 add-ons, I've heard, or
that's
15
right.
add-ons.
Yeah, I think
I heard Real Madrid was also checking out Neves, but so I don't think we will get him if Real Madrid wants him, comes in swooping in. We
don't get him if Real Madrid are in the picture, but I mean, Kroener's hung up his boots, hasn't he? But he's not a replacement for Toni Kroos, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. Okay, well, final question. Galatasaray made a £25 million offer for AWB. Would you sell him, Jarvis and Stu? I will tell you straight away, I wouldn't. I would keep him. I think he will only grow and he will become the best fullback in world football over the next 2 years. I think he's a fantastic player. He was absolutely superb against Doku in the FA Cup. Once he got him sorted, once he got him understood, Doku gave him a roasting for about the first 5 minutes, 6 minutes. Then once he got on top of him, Doku's influence had gone, apart from that fluke of a goal. So for me, I would keep him. Big words, I know, but I think he's a phenomenal one-on-one defender. I really do.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I would probably rate him as maybe the best one-on-one defender in the world.
Yeah,
totally. And how do you sell the best one-on-one defender for 25 millions?
Totally.
It doesn't make sense in a way, but it's limited. And if we want to play with attacking wingers contributing into our attack, as Stephanie mentioned, scoring goals, we need to score 75 plus goals. Will we do that with a player like Wan-Bissaka? So he needs to start developing his play. He needs to learn to cross. He needs to learn to take on his man. He needs to do runs to open up space for the wingers. And there's a lot of things he needs to work on. And the thing is, I heard that Ineos wants to focus on the squad we already have and develop them to become better. So I would say, if I believe that Wan-Bissaka is one of those players they will focus on.
No, I totally agree. Well, Danny, I hope that answers your question, and that is the end of today's Q&A. I hope you've. I mean, look, guys, we've had about 160, 170 watching constantly all show, which myself and Jarvis, thank you greatly for, and I hope you've enjoyed our conversation, our chat. We love it when you get involved. The questions are absolutely brilliant. We're hoping to have an announcement during the week about myself, Jarvis, Phil Marsh, and another for next Monday. So we're hoping to have an announcement midweek. So please keep an eye on the MUFC Realist TV Twitter handle. Jarvis, over to you. I think it's been a great show.
I got word in from Mick that I could play that video with David Ornstein, so we will end with the David Ornstein recap of the managerial situation at Man United. So give me 2 seconds and I will just play this.
And we get into the times once again. We've already talked about England and Trent Alexander-Arnold, but on the right of the back page there, Pochettino out of the frame for United. Manchester United, they say, have cooled their interest in Mauricio Pochettino. He was included on a shortlist last month when United started reviewing Erik ten Hag's position as manager. And yes, David, that was last month. It's the best part of 2.5 weeks now that this post-season review has been taking place at Manchester United. We know Sir Jim Ratcliffe met with Thomas Tuchel. There's been talk of Pochettino, and yet Ten Hag himself is still in limbo. Does the longer it goes on point to the fact that he's not going to be the Manchester United manager next season?
I've given up predicting what will happen in this situation because I'm not sure Manchester United are certain themselves, let alone us. And clearly they've been conducting due diligence and holding conversations with a variety of options. They've all been pretty well documented. As you said, Thomas Tuchel, Mauricio Pochettino and others. It sort of came out publicly, didn't it, in the week leading up to the cup final and beyond. In case they make this change, and that's the big question still, in case. And it all feels a little uncomfortable with Erik ten Hag still in position. And you would say, statistically, he's done a decent job over his 2 years in charge, second most successful manager in the country behind Pep Guardiola. Of course, it was a really difficult season for Manchester United, results-wise, goal difference-wise, and there were many mitigating factors, pros and cons, and all sorts of conversations around it. But really, for everybody's sake now, you feel it needs to come to a head one way or the other, and some clarity brought to the equation, maybe some comment from Manchester United, and then they can move on. And they've got a transfer window to tackle. They've got a squad to build around. It's the first window under the Ineos sporting control. And so now it seems with Charlotte Duncan's piece there that Mauricio Pochettino's not in the frame, obviously available post Chelsea, but I'm not sure how strongly he ever was for it. And as Mark sort of briefly touched upon earlier, the name Gareth Southgate continues to swirl around. I'm not sure how strongly he's being considered either. So yeah, a big decision to make. It seems there's fewer and fewer potential candidates if they are to move on, and Erik ten Hag lives to fight another day.
Okay, that's it. Erik ten Hag lives to fight another day.
I think that's all what we've been speaking about, really. I mean, it kind of sums up what we've been saying, and what I was saying, guys, in the VAR room. Nobody knows. Even David Ormstein doesn't know. He was waffling there, really, wasn't he? If you think about it, he was waffling to fill some time. He just didn't know. He hadn't got an answer to the question. So I think the answer, everybody, is I think he's staying until we hear otherwise, and I think that's how we've got to look at it. And I think, for us as fans, it's just got to be business as usual. Let's start looking towards the Euros and seeing who we bring in as a club, and as the restructuring goes on. So yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it was interesting what Ormstein said. So
yes. So that's the final segment of the show. Yeah, what a show. I hope you enjoyed it. We have had a lot of people watching. Almost 100 people on YouTube and 100 people on Twitter at the same time. So that's
please all like, yes, please all press likes, and Jarvis will sing at some point for definite.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll get 200 likes next time when we have two ex-Man United players on at the same time. Hopefully,
so, yes, we're hoping to get that. We're hoping to get that across the line. But I should know during the week. So please keep an eye out on the Twitter, because Jarvis will tweet it. And if we do, get those questions in, because Phil last week, was it last week? He was on the week before, I can't remember. Last week, yeah. Said he had a brilliant time. He loved it, and he loved the questions that were coming through. We picked a winner, didn't we? Did you tell Rashmano?
Yes, the winner for best question last week was Rashmano. I have to say it on air. And I will send you Phil's, what do you call it?
Twitter. Well, if we'll let Phil know. If you can let Phil know through Twitter, Jarvis, and then Phil will reach out to Rashmano and send him his prize. So next week when Phil comes on, he's already said again that he will do a competition. So get your your questions in, get loads in. I mean, if we do a whole show on the Q&A, it's entirely up to you. You can ask me and Jarvis anything as well. Anything you like, you can ask us. And Stephanie's come up with, we got to 90 likes. Let's get us over 100 before midnight. Let's get us over 100. You got half an hour. No, well done, Rashmano. Absolutely brilliant question. Congratulations. So we'll take care of that for you. And please all tune in next week to Jarvis is gone.
Yes.
What's the channel got planned for the week Jarvis? Do you know?
We will do some Euro stuff because we talked about it. People want to see Mick and me talking, and you are free to join us, Stu, if you have the time. I know you're always busy working and doing your stuff, but
yeah,
this
I
Monday
am.
we'll speak a little bit about the Euros. England is playing on Friday against. Scotland is playing.
Scotland kick on Friday against Germany.
England is playing against Denmark. First game, aren't they?
Sunday, I believe. I think it was Sunday.
Yeah. So there will be a lot of Euro stuff, but basically Jarvis's corner will be about Man United. Hopefully,
we'll be back definitely on Monday.
So I would just thank everybody in the VAR room: Rashmano, Lillis, Stephanie Griffith, who else? Danny B, Lucky
Jackoff's been in there.
Jackoff,
Madhouse has been in there. Crikey, who else has been in there?
NC Smith, rather than 69.
Yeah, Danny B, Madhouse, Ian McDonald again with a brilliant question. Thank you.
DJ Superfly.
Yeah. Oh, and of course, and of course the legend Rashmano for the memberships.
Yes,
which
and
is
Jonathan Lillienberg for the memberships, and the same with Super Chat.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant, guys. Absolutely brilliant. We've I hope you've enjoyed it, guys. Really do.
Yes, I hope you all enjoyed it, and we will be back next week, 9 o'clock, 9 p.m. UK. So hopefully have a good week, and see you on the next.
All the best, guys. Take care.
Thank you so much for stopping by and watching MUFC Realist TV. Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow us on the socials.